Happy Hump Day.
Happy St. Patty's Day.
Yeah. You wearing green? Oh, never mind. Your face is green.
Exactly. I'm always wearing green, baby.
Oh, good Lord.
How are
Freaking
we doing
people.
today?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a typical Monday.
For
Yeah.
the third time this week? All right, well, there's that.
No, I'm saying my grandmother always said that Monday would set the tone for the rest of your week. Well, Monday was a doozy. that's all.
Sweet.
That's all I'll say. How are
So
you
you're
doing?
on your third Monday this week.
Like I said, my grandma always said it set the tone. So yeah, it's going to be a Monday kind of week.
Well, luckily we're on the downhill slide. Friday just around the corner. So there you go.
How are you?
Oh, just another rainy day in paradise here. At least it's not snow. At least it's not ice like what we had a couple of days ago. And we'll talk a little bit about some weather goings on here this afternoon as well. Some things headed perhaps even your way and down south.
Yeah. Wait, I told you earlier, I've told him earlier when we were speaking about it. It's like down in the South. It's probably not a great thing, but we always hear about tornado warning, so I think you hear it so much that you just become kind of immune to it until like the damn things jump in your house and you're like, oh, well, there's a tornado, might need to be concerned. Because we constantly hear like the conditions are what are good for potential tornado. And you're just like, okay, whatever.
Well, so good segue into the 11 million people at risk for powerful tornadoes and severe storms in deep south. More than 10 million people in the deep south are at risk for severe storms sweeping through Wednesday into early Thursday. National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center outlined risk levels for tornadoes and severe storms are elevated for Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, and Tennessee. So there we see the map. High risk down through northeastern Louisiana, Alabama, into Mississippi, and I guess you might be extended a little bit into the red and orange areas, I guess. Let's see. It says tornado watches have been issued for western Arkansas, northern Mississippi, and southern Tennessee, including Memphis, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and Oxford and Tupelo, Mississippi. In those areas, damaging winds of up to 70 miles an hour and large hail could be seen by afternoon. There's 11 million people they're citing. Forecasts showed today's events will be widespread. They'll continue through late Wednesday night into early Thursday morning. Here we see the Doppler radar. And here we see some of the affected watches and warnings. And today's weather event, nice pretty maps. So Wednesday's tornado risk, there we see that as well. Thursday carries over, to the eastern seaboard. So what doesn't hit down Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana way, Tennessee, well, you guys are going to be in for a ride tomorrow in Georgia, South Carolina, and perhaps North Carolina as well. So there you go. That's what we'll start off with today. Weather.
I'm the fun one. So I'm gonna start off with magic show and emoji peach. So
Oh, all right. Well,
here,
there's that
here
then.
I'm gonna start off with my magic show. Here it is. Some of you probably have already seen it, and I got to give a shout out to my man Red Pill because I was all up in gab before I came on here, and he had gabbed this out. It's weird saying gab this out, but this was from Mister Sniff Me If You Can himself. I don't know if you guys have not seen this. It's freaking strange. And there's some people that did a really good job of kind of highlighting it. But this was him. Notice if you see it. Notice if you guys see anything. Let me make sure I'm sharing my audio. When he comes out here and talks to these reporters, it's a little weird. I'll try to blow it up as good as I can, and we're off. Look down at the bottom. I'll give you a hint. You haven't seen it.
Travel to the southern border, sir? Not at the moment. Have you decided when you're able to share?
Did you see it? Watch his hand. Like, watch the microphone in his hand.
When you're able to share thoughts with other countries? Is it allies or neighbors?
Gotta go back forward.
Not at the moment.
And somehow his hand goes over the social distance microphone, and you're like, what the heck? And then this person, it's funny because this person tweeted, I forget the microphone, top of his head sure disappears a lot. Well, if you know anything about like cameras and kind of like this is white and the glare off the head, it is weird. I'm not going to, but his hand going over, look at this. That's not, you can't explain this. What is this? That's nuts. This person did a really good job too. See, hand over microphone. Hand. Remember, he's leaning in because these people are supposed to be a pretty good distance away from him. This is not how that went. So, what is going on with the Biden and the I don't know, CGI? I don't know what it is, but that's not normal. That doesn't even look normal down here. And I remember somebody showed a video of Fauci the other day with his like neck and his collar was off. And I was like, what is going on with this crap? Nick said, dead potato walking.
Well, somebody who's been versed on sciences and maths and physics and things of that nature, apparently he is able to defy physics because I was always told, as laws of physics state, the two things cannot occupy the same place at the same time. But somehow crazy Uncle Joe must have figured out how to do that.
Oh, yeah. And well, I don't know. It's strange. And of course, by the way, it stormed here today. Yes, I'm in Tennessee, and my little dog hates storms. And so I got him to go lay in his bed before we started this. And now he's like trying to figure out how to get to me. It could be one of them days. Okay, so there's this. Never mind the fact that he's not going to go down to the southern border. And what did they do to POTUS? And I'll still call Trump POTUS because this is I'm embarrassed. People railed on Trump for 4 years about how he tweeted, which sometimes, guys, I'm going to admit, his tweets, I'm like, come on, really? But like, if you want to tout out that you were embarrassed to have Trump as your president, what are you saying to yourself now? This man does not even know where to walk off the stage. This man, they have to cut down the live streams when they get to the question part because he don't know if he's supposed to answer them or not. And Lord knows they don't know what he's going to say if they let him off the chain. I mean, this is humiliating. We're supposed to be the superpower, the world's strongest country. And this is the dipshit we got behind the freaking with the nuclear football walking around. Okay. And weirder news, and I feel the need, if I have a platform to spread it, this happened to me. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. I had 2 peaches. This is strange, but bear with me. So I got these peaches. These peaches look perfectly fine. I set them up on my counter to slice them open to freeze them for some smoothies. This is what the peach looked like. Now, listen, I've been eating peaches my whole life, okay? I'm from Tennessee. I have a lot of family that lives in Georgia. I know what a good peach looks like. That looks like a perfectly good peach, right? You tell my knife's underneath it. I've cut it down the middle. This is what that peach looked like inside. That is freaking disgusting. I have never seen a peach be so healthy on the outside. Now, listen, I know they can use waxes on apples and lemons and limes. Peaches are fuzzy. You can't really wax a peach. But how this got infected down in the seed and how it looked like it, I have never seen. I mean, the seed was so messed up. Look, it split off like the hole in it. That doesn't even look like a peach seed. Look at that seed. That looks like an avocado seed. Peach seeds look like this, where they're all funkily and bumpily. This came out of the other peach that I cut open that was completely like rotted. Again, the outside of them looked like this. I've had peaches my whole life. It was strange. So I just wanted to give y'all a heads up because most people eat peaches like they do an apple. They just start biting into it. And if I saw a peach like this and took a big bite out of it, when I got to the center and it looked like that, I'd be a little disturbed. Guys, slice your peaches in half, especially right now if they come in from Chile. That's where it came from. Tree ripe peach. I don't know about no tree ripe. It might have been ripe when it came off the tree, but it sure as shit wasn't ripe when it got to me. And again, I have never seen a peach not show any signs of age on the outside and then look like that on the inside. The other one, again, was the same. And the other one's seed was so deformed. Like it was, I don't know. See, like that, to me, that seed's deformed too. It doesn't look, it was flatter. It had this like white stuff on it. That wasn't like peach flesh. Something going on. So please, if you get a peach, that's what I was thinking, Caffeine Addict was like, is Monsanto, because Chile's got a serious water problem right now. They have a serious water problem, and they're worried about supplying water to the avocado farms in Chile more than giving the water to the people. So it's like, have they GMO'd these things to try and make them survive with a little bit, tiny bits of water, and they've manipulated that seed so much it's doing this? Because that's not just, look at this. That's bad. That's bacteria. That's fungi. That's just not like rot like this. Look at that. Anyway, not trying to gross you out, but I told you I'd start with the magic show and end with a moldy peach. Keep my word.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah, cut your fruits, man, open right now. Cut them in half. Cut them in half, man.
All right, well, let's migrate to some other Georgia news, I suppose. Not so peachy. Apparently, last night we had this little nugget occur. The Georgia massage parlor massacre suspect says wasn't race related, blames sex addiction. And before I get into the updates, I'm actually going to go back to the original story as it broke last night. Mind you, this is rather convenient, and I'll touch upon that here momentarily. But apparently, after an hours-long manhunt, a 21-year-old man has been captured in southwest Georgia, hours after 8 people were killed in shootings at 3 Atlanta area massage parlors, because that's where you normally go to shoot people up, apparently. Cherokee County Sheriff's Office spokesman Captain Jay Baker said the suspect, Robert Aaron Long, always got to use the 3 names, of Woodstock, has taken into custody on Crisp County, almost 150 miles south of Atlanta. The 8 women were shot dead in 3 separate incidents at 2 spas and a massage parlor in and around Atlanta. We got Young's Asian Massage, the Aromatherapy Spa, and the Gold Massage Spa. Around 5 p.m., 5 people were shot, 4 dead, 1 wounded at Young's Asian Massage Parlor in Ackworth, about 30 miles north of Atlanta. Cherokee County Sheriff's Office spokesman Captain Jay Baker said. And from there, the Daily Mail reports that it's believed Long drove more than 30 miles where a further 2 shootings occurred and northeast of the city in the suburb of Woodland Hills. Atlanta police officers responded to a call of a robbery in progress at Gold Spa around 5:50 p.m., found 3 women dead from apparent gunshot wounds, police said. And while on the scene at Gold Spa, cops reportedly received a second call from the aromatherapy spa directly across the street and found 1 woman had been shot and killed there as well. While authorities were not immediately releasing the gender or race of the victims, Atlanta Police Chief Rodney Bryant said all victims were female and it appears they may be Asian. Well, why is that important? Well, let's flash forward here back to some of the updates and that on the story since it came out yesterday. And of course, none other than Chuck Schumer rising right to the top, just as we expected, given the increasing clamor of claims of increased violence against Asian Americans and the narrative need to pin this to white supremacists rather than the mostly black that we have seen, assailants that have been charged or caught on tape in these attacks. Last night's killing spree at 3 mostly Asian-run massage parlors in Atlanta triggered race-based outrage. White suspect, 8 dead, 8 young Asian women. Here's old Chucky rising right to the front. Atlanta was shocked last night by a series of shootings, leaving 8 people dead, 6 of Asian descent. We can't lose our vigilance against the forces of hate, bigotry, discrimination. We must stop Asian hate, and we must move forward on legislation to help stop the gun violence epidemic. However, authorities have stated that Robert Aaron Long, 21, of Woodstock, said the shooting spree was connected to his addiction to sex and not racially motivated. Of course, officials say it's still too early to say whether the attacks will still be categorized as a hate crime, according to the AP. Now, that being said, this came out last night via Torba over on Gab. And it says, if you notice something strange going on here, you might be a conspiracy theorist. Well, what did we see in recent days? Biden denounced the attacks on Asian Americans during the COVID-19 pandemic, calling them un-American. This was Tom Porter via a March 12th article. And then we go over to breaking Atlanta area spa shooting, 7 dead, 3 crime scenes, gunman at large, motive unknown, all victims believed to be Asian, just so happens. Oh, the clown news. Asian Americans reported being targeted at least 500 times in the last 2 months. And not to be outdone, oh, look at this. Senate Bill 736, a bill to regulate assault weapons to ensure that the right to keep and bear arms is not unlimited and for other purposes. Introduced by none other than turn 'em in, Mr. and Mrs. America, Senator Dianne Feinstein, who just recently and happened to put forth legislation to go after, a couple hundred assault weapons, those deadly assault weapons. I'm not sure what those are exactly, but nonetheless, the narrative had been already cast ahead of time. And it makes you wonder, right, at the end of the day, how exactly do these false flags work? Does Chuck get on the phone to his clown buddies over at the clown agencies or Intel and say, "Hey, I need a quick false flag. What do you got? Oh, we got an agent standing by."
You're gonna kill me. Say FF. We're on YouTube.
Well, I'm just saying,
I know,
these
but
people are so effing stupid to believe that we can't figure this bullshit out. We see it for what it is. They're hacks, they're liars, they're cheats. Every single one of these punks out of Congress now.
well, I'd listen. It's obvious what they're trying to do. I'll take this one a little bit. I mean, this one was closer to home. They all bother me, but this just came out. And they're already trying to spin this. The body cam came out, and I'll let you guys decide what you think. I'll fast forward a little bit so you don't have to watch the whole thing. But Nashville just released the body cam of what happened with this cop, and you see this is on officer.com, so they're going to say heroic shot in line of duty. I found somebody that had uploaded this to YouTube, and the title of it was shot down like a dog, and I'm like, what? And so I watched this video and I'm like, you have got to be kidding. If anybody would try to spin this as something other than a valid use of his firearm, I don't know what to tell you. So apparently this person that this car was registered to had like 7 warrants out for their arrest. And so the cop pulls up, asks her to get out of her vehicle, looks for the dude, then finds drugs in her purse, tries to put her under arrest. She tries to resist, and I'll kind of show you what that looks like. This is only 2 minutes long. But I'm going to get to the part where he's looking through her, but he pulls out, like, I think it's like some white powder, so I don't know if that's coke or meth or crank. They're all white, I think. But he finds that, and then I think some marijuana, which is not legal in the state of Tennessee.
Put me in handcuffs. I haven't done anything wrong.
Ma'am.
No, don't put me.
You're about to get tased.
No, she runs from him.
Get down.
I'm gonna show you how good. Let me show you something
Down on
else.
the ground.
I'm gonna show you how good these freaking tasers work for these cops. These taser does nothing. She's still flailing around. Look, still trying to get in her keys. And then he tries to use the actual taser itself. Look, doesn't even affect her. Enough for her. Tried to get her out of the car again. What does she do?
Step out.
Look, it stops.
Ma'am, put the
Now
gun
she
down.
pulls the gun.
Put the gun down.
Then she,
23 shots fired. Shots fired.
10-4, 13, keep outside code 3.
watch her. Dropped off.
23, I'm hit.
No.
Step out. Ma'am, put the gun down. Put the gun down.
She shoots. No, I don't even care. She resisted arrest, and then he tased her, didn't affect her, and then she pulls a weapon, and then we have people out here saying this was unjustified. This was unjustified. That's freaking scary to me when they're trying to push that kind of narrative. And then I don't know. It continues on. I'm gonna play you this clip of what this idiot. Remember this moron. What all he said about Antifa. Just remind you of what this idiot has said about Antifa. Justified Antifa. All the peaceful protests. They burning down buildings and trying to beat people over the head. Oh, they're just trying to push about fascism. When they bring up January 6th, and then this is what he says about when officers are beating people.
They, tried to storm the Capitol and police.
Oh,
My chime card arrived today.
I'm gonna get a commercial.
Cool envelope.
That's awesome. It's monetized. Get in.
Welcome to the
Police beat them back.
Beat them back.
What they forgot was the consequences of breaking and entering. But it's
What they got was consequences to breaking and entering. I mean, I'm sorry, how many buildings has Antifa and Black Lives Matter burnt down to the ground or robbed?
the whole point about the flag and Colin Kaepernick is spot on, because they used, as we have been pointing out, the American.
Then he defends the Colin Kaepernick thing and said, see, they said this or this. But what he said right there about cops beating people because they were breaking and entering just dumbfounds me at how quickly these people will say one thing one day and shoot something the completely hypocritical the next. That shows you these people don't care. There's no morals. They have no ground and no standing of facts. They don't have any certain feelings about one way or the other. They will say whatever they're told to say. And I'll always call him Lemonhead after 412 said it one day. He's Don Lemonhead to me. But that's just a glimpse into what he said about what should happen. And then the last thing, then I'll give it to you, this little clip of the stuff that I have. This is the mayor, Ted Wheeler, seeks $2 million to bring back uniform police team to address spike in shootings. Days after Portland recorded its 20th homicide, Mayor Ted Wheeler said Thursday he'll seek $2 million in a one-time funding to allow more proactive policing on city streets with greater civilian oversight to try and stem a growing wave of gun violence. No. See, this is this word salad that they spin, this gaslighting. This is because you got Antifa and Black Lives Matter beating the shit out of people, breaking out their windows every damn day. Then they attacked the Democratic convention there, the headquarters there somewhere. And so now he's going to blame this. Avoid gun violence in Chad, maybe those kids that got killed there because people were walking around handing out guns. But this right here is nuts. Now he wants $2 million to go help fix the problem that we've been screaming for 2 years that they needed to shut the shit down, and they didn't do a damn thing about it. And now Biden's in office and they want $2 million. Not hell to that. They want us to pay for it. They want the states that said hell to the no to go pay for their bullshit. Okay, there you go. Sorry. That's my rant for that one.
Okay, well, I'm going to switch things up just a little bit and go a little financial. And let's talk a little bit about housing. Today, some stats come out. U.S. housing starts. Building permits collapsed in February after mixed data last month. Starts down, permits up. February starts and permits were expected to drop modestly month over month. Instead, they utterly collapsed as interest rates soared, with starts down 10.3% month over month. 1.3 down was expected, and permits were down 10.8% month over month, and only a 7.2 was the consensus there. And of course, citing Bloomberg, total starts and permits tumbled from post-financial crisis highs. There we see the drop down there. And of course, under the hoods, multifamily starts were the biggest driver of the drop. Single family starts was down 8.5. Multifamily starts down 14.5. There we see that there as well. Both multifamily down 11.6, single family down 10. Permits plunged. We see that as well. And of course, they highlight, however, housing starts crashed in the Midwest, down 34.9%, suggesting this unexpectedly large drop is weather-related. And ironically, permits dropped across all regions except the Midwest. Northeast was down 9.8, South down about 14, West down a little over 11, and Midwest down about 1.2. The interesting thing about that is that they do not cite anywhere in here about the fact that futures for lumbers and things of that nature, commodity prices in general have been skyrocketing. And of course, there's been an article in the last week or so that any new housing starts might as well consider adding about an extra 25 grand on top of what they originally anticipated paying for lumber, just because of the supply chain disruptions, things of that nature pertaining to COVID since the start of last year. And of course, whatever sort of tariffs or whatever we got going on north of the border as well. So nonetheless, housing does not look all that great at the moment. Another interesting piece pertaining to a little economics, it says with ratings down, the networks hunt for a Trump replacement. This by Matt Taibbi. Says Trump saved the cable news business once. Without him, things are looking bleak again. Who will news outlets find to feed the outrage machine? And so think about that.
Oh, Let me say one thing. I got a hint. It's the 17th letter of the alphabet. Okay, go ahead.
Well, there's a possibility, yes. They're all trying to keep that narrative alive, but Variety just published a graph that should horrify cable news executives. And it says, yikes. Let's take a look at it here. Oh, I can't get that to blow up. Anyway, that's not an embed. So they show CNN, Anderson, Cooper, Cuomo, Primetime, et cetera, all of their ratings on CNN tonight are down north of 30s and all the way back up to about 9%. Rachel Madcow. Tucker Carlson's even down about 4.8. Hannity's down about 12. MSNBC in general down about 18. You get the idea. Bottom line, cable TV is tanking as of March 12th. Says this data showing significant declines in all the major primetime cable news shows came in a piece called Cable News Ratings Begin to Suffer Trump Slump. Gavin Bridge of the Variety Intelligence Platform explained. Says VIP has previously covered the initial ratings decline. Fox News, MSDNC, and most of all the clown news saw in President Biden's first week as the nonstop controversies of the previous administration slowed down. Our prediction that audiences would perk up for President Trump's second impeachment trial proved correct. But in the weeks after the trial ended, audiences for the clown news have plummeted, and MSDNC is seeing about half the clown news' drop, while Fox News is down single digits. It says it's natural for news audiences to dip after seismic events like the January 6th riots. Would it have been seismic had they not propped it up and made it out to be something that it wasn't? Because guess what, folks? Their whole frickin' narrative has absolutely collapsed. The clown news had its best month ever in January, and individual shows like Anderson, Cooper, 360 jumped about 5 million viewers. Still, Variety's report showing significant ratings drops as we move further away from the Trump experience. Trump experience? No, it wasn't a presidency. I guess it was just a 4-year experience, folks. I guess you get the shirt if you survive those 4 years. Is both predictable and fascinating. It's not clear how media executives will respond to losing the best friend they ever had, the one they love to hate, apparently. They will either have to surrender to the idea of significant long-term losses, impossible to imagine, or find a way to continue an all-time blockbuster entertainment franchise, which doubled as the most divisive public relations campaign in our history without the show's main character. Did you notice what they just said there? All-time blockbuster entertainment franchise. So, MSNBC, Fox, Clown News, do they put news shows out, or is it merely infotainment? Very telling right there, the words they chose to use. Trump transformed news into a ratings crocata, combining the side-against-side drama of sports programming with the amphetamine urgency of breaking news. And moreover, the Dem Party response to Trump, which involved multiple efforts to remove him, premised on the idea that every day he spent in the Oval Office was an existential threat to humanity, allowed stations to turn every day of the Trump years into a baby down a well story. The baby was democracy. And between the Mueller investigation, 2 impeachments, the Kavanaugh confirmation, multiple border crises, the treason in Helsinki fiasco, and 100 other tales, every day could be pitched as a drop everything emergency. And the partisan rooting angle, and you had ratings gold. Imagine 3 or 4 dozen Super Bowls a year, each one played in the middle of a Category 5 hurricane. And you come close to grasping the magnitude of the gift that Donald Trump was to the MSDNC, Fox, and Clown News. 6 or 7 years ago, it was common to see the Clown News or MSDNC fall outside the top 20 rated cable networks, below titans like Disney, USA, TBS, and the History Channel. By 2020, the 3 top networks on cable, not just news networks, but overall, were Fox News, MSDNC, and Clown News. The fact that news ate away so much of the market share of the entertainment business in the Trump years raises questions about what exactly we were watching. Jump in your Doctor Who police box and go back to 2014. The last year Trump was not a major political figure. The cable news genre had what Variety described as an overall down year. It was a particularly grim time for the Clown News and MSDNC. Back then in 2014, Fox News was pulling in about 1.779 million. MSDNC about 600,000, which was at the time down about 8%. Clown News only had about 500,000, down 8%. And HLN, I think that was the old Headline News Network, if I recall, it was down about 16% with about 300,000 or so people. But nonetheless, you get the idea behind this. Story goes on here a little bit. Taking note of all this was Trump himself, whose poll numbers were dipping a bit at the end of 2015. Some were predicting his demise. To this, Trump snapped, "I'm not a masochist," and promised he'd pull out if his numbers worsened. However, he said if he did, there'd be a major collapse of television ratings, adding a poisonous prediction. It would become a depression in television. So I thought that was a pretty interesting article covering the fact that, hey, now that the quote-unquote Trump experience is over, not the presidency, but the experience is over, suddenly, Fox News, the Rachel Madcows, and Don Lemonhead that you just had up there, Anderson Cooper and the like, are struggling to maintain audiences. How do you think they're going to prop that up with Uncle Joe? Fire up some more false flags?
Oh, I have a couple things to show. And by the way, guys, if my picture when I share it isn't big enough, I apologize because I'm trying to have as much of you on the screen as I can. See, I have my YouTube and my D Live, and so that's about all I got to show. But I'm going to not show you everything, all right. But here is a couple things. Number one, somebody said, "Oh, who is it?" Said they're panicking. Nick Glenster said they're panicking. I would agree completely. I'll show you a couple things. He's going to bring up that Cuomo. I'm going to bring up another one. Cuomo may have joined effort to discredit the first accuser, report says. A new report alleges that the aides to New York Democrat Governor Andrew Cuomo created a letter attacking the credibility of the first woman to publicly accuse him of sexual harassment, even going so far as attempting to link her to former President Trump, and that Cuomo himself may have been a part of the effort, which was designed to get former staff members to sign on to the letter. The letter was reportedly circulated only days after Lindsey Bolin went public on Twitter with her accusations at Cuomo. So here's some more stuff, but this is the part down here. It says that wait a minute, the initial blah, 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 the New York Times. Yep, those people, which examined the letter attacking Bolin's credibility, reported that it stated weaponizing a claim of sexual harassment for personal political gain or to achieve notoriety cannot be tolerated. False claims demean the veracity of credible claims. Really? I thought it was believe everyone. Hashtag me too. So New York Times comes out and writes something like this. They're tipping their toe and, oh, we better back up because nobody believes them anymore. Why the hell would we? So they come out with this. So, okay, Cuomo, I got you. All right. Then the Washington Post outs their source who gave them fake quotes from Trump's Georgia phone call. Source defends herself. Following the Washington Post lengthy correction added to a January 9th article claiming that President Donald Trump's pressure to Georgia election investigator to fund the fraud and that she would be a national hero if she did so. The Post added the source that fed them the false quotes. On Tuesday, January 9th, this is March. The Post media critic Eric Wimple reported that the original story was based on an account from Jordan Foch, the deputy secretary of state, whom Watson briefed on his comments. The deputy secretary of state. Fox had told the Post and subsequent media outlets, so a whole damn bunch of people, that Trump pressured Francis Watson's chief investigator, the Georgia Secretary of State of Office, by insisting Watson find the fraud. Blah blah blah. All this shit. Then it goes on what he actually said. And then she was like, I can't actually believe they used my words. They weren't supposed to, they weren't supposed to use it verbatim. I believe the story accurately reflected the investigator's interpretation of the call. The only mistake here was that the direct quotes. I mean, they're kind of important when you're talking about this kind of stuff. I mean, it might be important to get the shit right. And they should have been more of a summary, more of a word salad, more of injecting your personal views into it, which is what you do all the time. I think it's pretty absurd for anyone to suggest the president wasn't urging the investigator to find the fraud. He didn't say that. So, I mean, you can infer that, but it's not the facts. But both the Post and CNN issued corrections to their stories. So the Post went on and kind of was like, "Hey, we got it wrong." The CNN was like, "Oops, yeah, it was paraphrasing the president's comments. The story has been updated following discovery of an audio recording." You mean the evidence? Discovery of the actual flipping evidence. So that happened. So now we got these people backpedaling. Oh, I'll get into this in a minute. This crap with Candace Owens and Cardi B. Oh, that's hilarious. I'll tell you about that in a minute. I'll let you give time. But that was my little like, I think they're feeling it. My conclusion to that is I do believe that the media outlets, they know that no one believes them, and we have a damn good reason why. They don't care about investigative journalists anymore. They don't care about fact-finding missions. They do not care. They are out there to push it's not even propaganda anymore. They're damn activists. They're leading one side. They sit there and go on air all the time and say, white people this, white people that, white people this, white people that. And then on the other side of their mouth, talk about racism's bad, equality for everyone, except for white people. And then you can drag those through the mud and talk shit about them till the cows come home and accuse every single white person of freaking Vance Jones went on air and said that every white person has a disease that can lay dormant in their body of their racism, and it can rear its ugly head. That's not racist. I'm sick of this. Only white people can be racist. Are we okay? So people in South Africa that's majority black, is there a difference there? I'm confused. It's ridiculous. So the Boers in South Africa that are being tired and being murdered for their farmlands, that's not racism, because all this the Afrikaners, now not the 11 original tribes, they get along really well with the Boers, but these governmental societies that are going in and they want their land. Why? Because they owe so much money to China, and China's come knocking on the door, and the only thing South Africa really has to offer these people that have these farms, they have these these mines that have these minerals in them and these precious stones, and South African government wants them so they can pay back China, so they're going after them. So is there a discrepancy there? Whatever. If you want to start blaming why the black population in America is still only 13%, go knock on Planned Parenthood's door, and then go ask Democrats why they set them all in lower black income families. Give some kids a condom and stop telling them to kill their kids. Maybe we could do that. I don't know. Eugenics, Martha's, whatever her name is, Margaret Sanger. There's that, but we don't talk about none of that shit. It's all white people. Okay, sorry, go ahead. That's it. That's my rant on that one.
Okay.
Your turn.
Let's switch over to a little Twitter sphere. Obviously, big tech is still being pursued. Obviously, many are recognizing that these tech oligarchs are wielding way too much power at this point. And so we're starting to see not only the states net pushback against it, we're also seeing countries net as well. And Breitbart had this: Russia gives Twitter 30 days to remove child porn or face ban. No more Twitteratski in the Ruski area. And says Russia will ban Twitter from the country in 30 days if the platform does not remove illegal content, including child pornography, information on committing suicide, and drug-related content. Vadim Subotin, deputy head of Roskomnadzor, Russia's equivalent of the FCC, said Twitter was not reacting to the regulator's request to remove illegal content as they should, and that the social network would be blocked in the country in a month if its failure to comply continues. Via the Daily Mail says Twitter is not reacting to our requests as they should. If the situation carries on, then it will be blocked in a month without a court order, Subotin said. It comes a week after Subotin announced that Twitter's internet speed would be slowed down unless it removed the offending content. Meanwhile, Twitter is also being sued in Russia for allegedly failing to delete material, encouraging children to join anti-Putin protests. And presumably that's after the whole shenanigans with Navalny and that they tried to spin up. Twitter said at the time that it was worried about the impact on free speech despite Russian laws specifically outlawing children attending protests. Both the Russian government and jailed opposition leader Alexei Navalny, widely considered to be the most prominent and anti-Putin dissident in the country, have expressed concern about Silicon Valley's interference in politics. Gee, you think? As if we haven't had our own bouts of it here, most recently November 2020. But hey, I digress. The Russian government said the decision of social media companies to ban President Trump in January was a nuclear blast in cyberspace and a blow against the democratic values proclaimed by the West, while Navalny called it an unacceptable act of censorship. So there you have it, that per Ellen Bukhari over at Breitbart. Well, not to be outdone, obviously things still going on by way of Google as well. And if you paid attention here recently, you'll know that the likes of the Twitters, the Facebooks, and everybody are going after the DOJ to try and relieve them of being sued by most of the state AGs and everything by way of antitrust, as if it's just something you can casually wave off. But now that they got their guy in that they bought and paid for by way of Mr. Biden and the folks and cronies that he's put in all the respective seats, let's just call up the DOJ and perhaps they'll just wave it off. Nonetheless, Epoch Times says 5 more states, territories join in Texas' antitrust lawsuit against Google. This on the 16th, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton said on Tuesday that 5 additional states and territories have joined their antitrust lawsuit against Google, which alleges antitrust violations and deceptive acts by the technology behemoth. Attorneys General from Alaska, Florida, Montana, Nevada, and Puerto Rico joined the multi-state lawsuit, which is led by Texas, that was originally filed by a coalition of 10 states. Paxton's office filed an amended complaint on Monday reflecting the changes. Today's filing underscores the broad consensus that Google's practices require review and swift action under antitrust and consumer protection laws, Paxton said in a statement. The lawsuit accuses Google of collecting thousands of data points about people and using that info for its own benefit and for lying to advertisers, publishers, and consumers about their conduct and motives. It alleges that Google had monopolized or attempted to monopolize products and services used by advertisers and publishers in online display advertising. These practices, the lawsuit argues, then reduces a publisher's ability to monetize content, increases advertisers' cost to advertise, and directly harm consumers. And I guess I'll pause there and say that this suit is probably not all that dissimilar from what we saw happen in the EU. And I think many similar lawsuits have taken place over there, big fines and that, both out of Brussels. And I think even Ireland was going after them as well in recent years. Says we will not allow this unprecedented, unlawful conduct to continue. Our coalition looks forward to holding Google accountable for its illegal conduct and reforming Google's practices in the future. And we are confident Google will be forced to pay for its misconduct through significant financial penalties. Among the allegations include an anti-competitive agreement Google had allegedly entered with Facebook. Basically, they created their own little duopoly. Scratch my back, I'll scratch your back in terms of advertising. This is according to a redacted version of the lawsuit filed in December 2020. Facebook announced in 2017 that it would try a new method of selling online advertising called header bidding, which would act as a threat of competition for Google. The lawsuit suggested Facebook eventually curtailed its involvement with the project after Google gave Facebook information, speed, and other advantages in the redacted auctions that Google runs for publishers' mobile app advertising inventory each month in the United States. The Wall Street Journal and New York Times, which both say they've reviewed an unredacted version of the complaint, reported the alleged secret deal referred to in the lawsuit was codenamed Jedi Blue by Google. In a recent interview, Paxton expressed confidence in the trajectory of his lawsuit, saying that he believes that there is a high likelihood of success. We've sued Google for antitrust violations, and we think we've absolutely got a case that will win, and very likely there will be other companies doing this process that we will learn have done the same thing and that are in the very same position, Paxton told Breitbart. He argued that Google's digital advertising business model presents a conflict of interest because it represents both buyers and sellers of online advertising. Google represents the buyers of advertising, the sellers of advertising, and they control the exchange, Paxton told the news outlet. It would be like Goldman Sachs owning the only exchange and representing all the buyers and sellers at the same time. knowing all the information, and therefore they can massively profit at the expense of these business owners, who then have to pass on those costs to consumers. So consumers are paying an exorbitantly high price for use of the internet without even knowing it. Other states that have joined in Texas' suit include Arkansas, Idaho, Indiana, Kentucky, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Utah. The Lone Star State has been cracking down on monopolistic ways Silicon Valley companies have been operating, including how big tech companies moderate user content. These companies have been scrutinized repeatedly for their perceived political bias and alleged unbalanced moderation of users' content. Critics say much of the company's moderation in the past year has focused on conservative speech, and speech from individuals deemed to be supporters of former President Donald Trump. Texas Governor Greg Abbott previously said he's working with state legislators on a bill to prevent big tech companies from taking action to moderate user content based on political viewpoints. So basically, a similar playbook to what we just saw DeSantis do down in Florida. There we go. Similarly, Florida has also proposed measures that would penalize social media companies that deplatform candidates during an election. The legislation would fine companies $100K a day until the candidate's access to the platform is restored. The Sunshine State would also require companies who promote a candidate to record such endorsements as a political campaign contribution at the state's election commission. And of course, one of the big benefactors of the proposed legislation in Florida would be none other than, say, Laura Loomer, who was blackballed even as she was in the race for her district down in Florida this last go-around. So, good to see things actually taking place against these big tech oligarchs. All is not lost yet. Obviously, we know that the Facebooks, the Googles, the Twitters, and that think that they've got more power than they ought, and they can just boss some of these sovereign states and that around. And to some degrees, they already have, but we're seeing them fight back. So good on them.
Well, in a smaller scale, on the smaller side of things, glad that the government's pushing back. But I don't know how many of you have been keeping up for the hilarity that is called the Cardi B. And I do have to share my sound because there's a couple things in there I want to play quickly. Well, just one mainly, but the Cardi B Candace Owens Twitter feud. Okay, so apparently Cardi B put her foot in it. And Candace Owens has been going back and forth with this woman since like literally 2019. So I'm going to kind of skim through this. I won't read you the whole thing, but it is freaking funny how Candace Owens served this woman a saucer of, I don't know, reality, because Cardi B all up in here like, yeah, I want you to lower my taxes, but I want you, free healthcare. So anyways, I'll tell you a little bit like how it started. It says Owens, this is in July of 2019. Owens pushed back on Cardi's public support for then president candidate Democratic Socialist Bernie Sanders, offered to give $250,000 to a charity of the performer's choosing if she were to debate her positions against Owens or another black conservative. Cardi declined. So she's like, no, I don't think so. Well, that's probably a smart choice. And then it kind of goes on. Candace goes on in September 2020 to Ben Shapiro's Sunday special where she talks about WAP. Any of you that don't know what WAP is, just it's a wet ass, but JJ, but not that way. It's disgusting. I wouldn't want my kids listening to it, just to say. And then they say all this about respect about women. As a woman, it's all this respect about women, and women deserve to be created equal, and women shouldn't be objectified. And then they're going to come out with WAP. And that's going to make it onto the stage of the Grammys, and these do performances, and these women are gyrating on one another. Yeah, hashtag respect. And then, so Owens also hit Democrats and then presidential candidate Joe Biden for ignoring the press, but making it a point to sit down with Cardi B. If anybody knows that famous sit down he did with Cardi B when she said that about lowering her taxes but wanting free healthcare, calling her illiterate for an interview, Owens argued that it was pandering to the black community. It was basically saying, black people, you were stupid, you were dumb. Blah blah blah. So I'm gonna go in here. This is where she was there, and then the post sparked a response from Cardi, who claimed that she had to publicly support Biden. Listen to this shit. She had to publicly support Biden because her song is number one. Huh. Wonder if that means that her producers and stuff were pushing her to do that. I don't know. And her sister and her sister's girlfriend were allegedly harassed by a man in a "Make America Great Again" hat. Harassed. This is in this article. They weren't harassed. They asked him to move, and those two chicks showed their ass. That's what happened. Owens took to the rapper to task about Biden's record and Cardi B's incoherent comments, talking about what. But anyway, this is her response. Never listen to a person that has a private security but wants the public police defunded. Never listen to a millionaire that made it here in America but trashes our country. These Hollywood idols are frauds, leading sheep down paths they never took when they discovered success. So this goes on. It goes on. She does an IG thing. Any of you that knows about this knows this has happened. I'm going to tell you where it went sideways for old Cardi B. Here's the post about the guy that was confronting. I'll link this out there to you guys if you really want to see it. But it kind of, most of you probably know what it is. Then it goes on. Wait a minute. What does she say? Wait a minute. To clarify, Joe Biden got to talk to you because you have the #1 song and Santa Claus was harassing your sister. Okay. Thanks for clearing that one up. And then it says about her #1 song. It says, she says, you are encouraging millions to go vote for the man that locked up an entire generation of black men. Maybe go Google Joe Biden in the 1994 crime bill. Joe Biden used you. Bernie Sanders used you. Neither one of them like you or know your music. They think you're dumb. And Owens lastly asking racist Joe Biden to lower your taxes is the same breath that you ask for free universal health care is about as thick as it gets. When you stick to music, you can get left alone. When you dabble in politics, you'll get called out for platforming ignorance. So this kind of went on between these two. And then this is one that Cardi B said, and you are encouraging millions to vote for a man who laughs every time a black man gets KO'd by a cop and 10 millions of Americans to drink bleach. Trump didn't even have you talking at the Republican convention. He thinks you're dumb. MASA. Did you dirty, but you mad at me? What is massa? You think she meant to try and put MAGA? Good Lord. So this was her response, was produced a clip of Trump laughing at black men getting killed, you lying fraud. I turned down filming a spot for the RNC convention. You encouraged millions of young girls to spread their legs, and you admitted to date raping men. So don't even start on the bleach lie. So she brings up her daughter. Oh, here it is. This is the one. She said something about free education. I would pay in taxes. About she wanted it to go to good things like education, and Candace said your tax dollars already go to free education. Genius. No campaign uses tax dollars for funding. That's illegal. Defunding police initiatives have led to 200% increase in black men getting shot in inner cities. Stop supporting black people dying. And Cardi B says your baby singing wop wop wop. That's some dry ass. But JJ. And then Owens reported attacking an unborn child. How very democratic of you. Well, I have you. Did you know your party supported the slaughter of over 18 million black babies since 1973? Did you know the most unsafe place for a black child is in the mother's womb because of your party? So this was really good because this is a clip I think a lot of people should be sharing right now on their social media platforms when they get kind of attacked by these morons. But this is what Malcolm X said about white liberals. They'll always sin. And it literally was a slap back. And this is why I shared my audio. This is what Malcolm X said about them using these celebrities.
A while ago, these leaders that they call leaders, this included Lena Horne, this included Dick Gregory, and this included comedians, comics, trumpet players, baseball players. Show me in the white community where a comedian is a white leader. Show me in the white community where a singer is a white leader, or a dancer or a trumpet player is a white leader. These aren't leaders. These are puppets and clowns that have been set up over the white community and over the black community by the white community and have been made celebrities and usually say exactly what they know that the white man wants to hear.
And I mean, damn. I don't care who you are, how you feel about either one of them, but damn. That had to make her take a seat back. And then that kind of died down for a minute. She shut her mouth, and here comes March 16th, yesterday. She says, yay, we made Fox News guys whop, whop, whop. Oh my God. Tana says, just next time, do her at her directly. You're a cancer cell to culture. Young black girls are having their minds poisoned by what you're trying to package and sell them as empowerment. I'm one of the few that has the courage to tell you the truth. You should thank me. You are insecure, and I know, right? Because I see right through your facade. You're part of a larger cancer that's manifesting black culture. Blah, 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 blah. It says, we hear so many women complaining about how men treat women. Cardi B begs the question, how do women treat themselves? We can fix Black culture. We can't do it if we keep pretending it's not broken. That platform was disgusting. Let's start by calling a spade a spade. And then she slaps back at her and shows her making a sandwich for her husband, and calls it, oh, just keep your butt in the kitchen, stuff like that, like you think, da-da-da. And she said, if you think making my husband a sandwich is a sin, but popping your vajayjay into another woman's vajayjay in front of the world is power, you are a lost soul. And you always love to mention my husband's skin tone. So let me ask, what color are the people that are encouraging you to strip in front of the world? Who owns your record labels? Who owns CBS and the Grammys? Who made the most money off your WAP? You sold it to who? I mean, she's quick. I'm just going to give her credit where credit is due. But what does she say? Oh, then she starts bringing up these fake tweets and these fake headlines and sending them to Candace. She says, now you're talking about two women thrusting their vajayjays together while your husband and brother slap male genitals together. Well, would you look at that? And she tries to tell her, I'm literally laughing out loud, Cardi, my dear. This is clearly photoshopped. Only one of us has a husband that sleeps around. And Cardi B has publicly talked about her husband cheating on her. And then she sends her, where's it at? I do her brother's private. She warns her right here. She's like, what are you talking about? She's like, I do have a brother and a private citizen. You are slandering right now with this photoshopped image that you're now publicly claiming you saw tweeted in real life. You want to admit you lied now or get sued so I can expose you as a liar. I win either way. So she's telling her basically to stop. Now she keeps sending her more of this stuff. Now you're being mad at me for what you tweeted. So she's still saying she tweeted that. So she comes back and says, this looks like a random blog. She says again, which is a lie. You made that part up. Help circulate slanderous lies. And she says, yes, just spoke with my family. I'm 100% suing Cardi B for that nonsense. You can't just start throwing out wild lies against private members of my family because you're upset someone called you out on your degenerate performance. I'll keep you posted. So the only reason I'm bringing this up today is because I've kind of watched this play out over the last year, them kind of going back and forth. I find it honestly kind of hilarious because it's Cardi B and she really does not have a clue about politics. But when Candace comes out and says she's suing her, then this was posted yesterday. I'll be curious to see where this leads, where you have a high profile singer, if that's what you want to call her, saying something online and on Twitter about someone else, and it's clearly slander, it's clearly lies, and she keeps telling her it's lies. And now you know who Candace Owens' husband is. His father, her husband's father, her father-in-law sits on like the Lords of Common or something. You English patriots out there know more than I do about that. I do. Your government system is a little confusing. But I know he's over there, but I'm sure he could probably give her some pretty sage advice. And I mean, again, she works for Daily Wire, which Ben Shapiro's an attorney. And you can have your feelings about him. Trust me, I don't like some of the crap he's tweeting out. To me, he's tweeting out Fauci talking points right now. And I know he had some kind of private sit down with Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know where Ben Shapiro is. I used to think he had a lot of good messages. He still does some good content, but it's kind of curious to see him pushing out Fauci's talking points. He should know better. I'm going to say again, everybody should be told that this vaccine's experimental. It is. That's not a lie. They rushed it through. That's why it's called warp speed. They're trying to inject you with an experimental drug. It didn't go through the proper testings or procedures. That's fact. So when people try and get you to take something and use your job, that's another one. There's just lawsuits coming up Texas right now where an attorney is taking the state to task for these corporations demanding their employees take it. We'll see what happens there as well. But I'll be curious what happens in this lawsuit. Again, thanks for bearing with me. I don't normally go through an article that long, but just because I'll be curious to see where that lawsuit goes with those two. See if something's a changing.
Interesting.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. She has the means to do it. And she tried to warn her several times. She can't say that she didn't know. Okay? When you have the person telling you, look it up, that's fake. That's fake. She's like, nope, you tweeted it. Because what the problem is she kept claiming that it was trending on Twitter. She said, no, you tweeted it was trending that day. And she's like, I'd never tweeted that. That's a lie. She's like, she sends it to her again. So there could be. I'm going to bet if I would think that the people that she's in touch with, she would have probably went to someone like a Ben Shapiro and said, do I have grounds to sue this woman before she ever tweeted that out? I remember Candace Owens did not come from some, up like middle class suburban neighborhood. The girl come from a dirt poor. Her grandpa was a tobacco farmer, and she was a what was she, black pilled, red pilled black or black? I don't. That's how she
Yeah,
started on
red
YouTube.
pilled black, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, she was she wasn't like in this world. She was found out on YouTube like that when she did that video about coming out to her parents as a conservative. Was harder than you would think. Someone coming out like it's gay, they would have been relieved. Her saying it's conservative, the world fell apart. But if you've never seen some of her couple of videos where she's sitting in front of the Senate and she goes after that Lee guy when he plays that little clip of her talking about Hitler or whatever, that's worth a listen. She smacks that dude down hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. Sorry, and I rarely do that, but I haven't brought it up. I don't think ever on here. But I brought it up because she's suing her, and if she wins that litigation and is capable of winning some kind of a settlement or anything out of that, someone suing someone else on Twitter that they posted about them that was slander would be pretty huge. Just like I was rooting for Dennis Prager when he was trying to take YouTube to task, because again, I do believe, and I hope this is the case, and better late than never. But I do believe that if YouTube, Twitter, Mark Zuckerberg needs to go jump in a river or whatever. That dude, I don't know what the hell he's doing. DARPA, I don't know. But I do believe that they are seeing what they have created, and they thought they could keep it contained. They thought they could get them to go after conservatives and stuff like that, just keep that in that little box. And we all knew, we all said it. First they come for me, and then they come for thee. And now you're watching them circle back around and go after, oh, wait a minute, you're going after my friend? Hold up, that wasn't part of this plan. They're seeing what this just absolute cancel culture, attacking people, never forgiving them, going after tweets they've done 20 years ago. That you're seeing what's happening. And I think that they're like, oh shit, we might need to open the gates back up again to these conservatives. No matter if they want to talk to somebody before they just cut down the fence, where a liberal just want to cut down the fence. They want to figure out why the fence is there. That's healthy to have in a society. People that, again, there's good things about wanting to protect the environment. That's good. But you also can't have people flying around on jetliners and private jets and 70-foot yachts, and so they can go to some Greenpeace thing to get an award. When we are telling you as conservatives, people actually look into this. Don't sit there and penalize freaking Americans and put all these restrictions and regulations on them when America doesn't even make up 5% of the population's pollution. Go to Asia. If you want to look at disgusting rivers and so much freaking trash floating around in rivers, you can walk on the trash and can't even see the water. Go look over in the Middle East. Go look over in places like India or Asia, where they're literally at factories where they're making shirts. They're pumping that toxic dye right out into the rivers right now. They make up over 90% of the pollution. You think China is going to do anything about their pollution because America made some law against itself? There's no laws in China, and that just gets into a worse part of things I research, which is I don't share. But there's no laws in China for animal cruelty. There's nothing over there. So they don't care. They've got internment camps. They're taking up their citizens to harvest their organs. So spare me you preaching about when COVID went on. By the way, all you people concerned about, black people being treated right, what did China do? They took the black people in their cities, you can look this up, and shoved them outside the cities, outside the walls, for no other purpose than the color of their skin. So before you want to sit over here and talk about America and how horrible we are, why don't you look around and talk about Libya, who still has an active trade slave, and so does 12 other damn countries. Stop talking about things that happened to us 100 years ago that we stopped, that we were smart enough to know was wrong, and we ended it ourselves. And go look at the countries that still do it today. And don't even get me on that shit, because I'll talk to you about how slaves were acquired. It wasn't a bunch of English people running out in the middle of these countries gathering people up. It was actually stronger black tribes that went to weaker black tribes and kidnapped these people, brought them to the coastline, sold them to the British for guns so they could empower themselves to be more powerful. We can all talk about history, but people keep subverting and trying to submit, cover up the actual history of what happened and blame and just one race of people is disgusting. I say it again. I am part Irish and part Native American. Where am I? I'm not out here screaming for my reparations. Both sides of my culture were enslaved. I don't blame any of you for that. None of you owned me. So shut up. And again, if Oprah freaking Winfrey doesn't shut her damn pie hole, this woman came from Nashville, was as poor as poor can be, and now she's a freaking billionaire, and she's bitching about America. Oh my God, oppressed black people. And she's sitting there as a billionaire in a country that made her a billionaire, in a country that elected a black man president. We're just horrible, apparently. That was a fluke. Okay, sorry. There you go. That shit pisses me off, though. I'm about done hearing about how horrible white people are on the news, and then talk about racism the next segment.
All right.
We are race.
Well,
in case anyone was confused about that, Caucasian is a race.
it is the top of the hour, and for those of you guys tuning in expecting to see Daddy Dragon here today, he is going to be out of pocket today. He's got some other business to tend to on his side of the pond. So, that being said, I think what I will do here for Daddy Dragon's hour, I've got something queued up here from a broadcast I did the other night, talking about the whole COVID-19 related stuff. And of course, if you were with me last night, you'll know that I covered quite a bit on the vaccine. All the vaccine manufacturers, VAERS, and everything else. And I'm going to be breaking a lot of that down into the various bits and pieces.
Before you do that, let me finish up my stuff then. Let me run through it real quick, because I pulled up stuff not knowing that to the end. So let me run through it, and then you can play that, okay? So I'm going to make this quick. Y'all ready for a flash? Here's flash. Let me turn off my sound. Okay, quickly. Elite Private Academy refuses to show race-based curriculum parents. This is going on at Columbia Academy, where actually parents are fighting back. They won't even show the curriculum to the parents. It's pretty disgusting. They did a survey in this school where they asking these children if they thought that they were targeting one side of the political aisle versus the other, and now the school will not show it to the parents or anyone else. I wonder what that freaking showed. Boom. This one is another one. California. Proposed ethics study curriculum urges students to chant to Aztec deity of human sacrifice cannibalism, calls for counter-genocide against white Christians. Yeah, this happened. Wonder what's happening with the school system. Guys, this is on Gateway Pundit. This was put out on March the 10th. I've only got DLive and YouTube pulled up because my screen is only so big, but I will plop this one out there. Oh, is it too big? You can probably get there from that. That's worth a read. That's freaking crazy. But again, people are pushing back, so there is that. This I thought was interesting. I thought it was pretty cool to send out to you guys about what's the real vaccine about. It is again, it's experimental. They don't tell you that. I don't understand why. And even the test that they're using, I don't understand why they're still using a test that the inventor of the test said was worthless. By the way, this is the face mask they're using. If you watch TV, this is on MTV. This is the face mask. Apparently, they think in California is to protect you from COVID. Again, remember, it's airborne particles. Look at this massive gap here. The whole bottom of this thing is open. Does anybody else see a problem? Anybody? Anybody see a problem with that face mask? Okay, Yelp data shows 60% of vision is close to coronavirus. U.S. has regained 42% of 22 million jobs lost. You probably already know what has happened to the economy because of the shutdown. There's 800 COVID-19 lawsuits that have been filed according to a law firm tracker. So, yeah, there's lawsuits coming down the aisle. They're probably not what you want them to be. There was one I was going to read it. Prison lawsuits prison, people in prison. They're trying to file suits saying, oh, it was unsafe in prisons. Sorry if you hurt people, man. That's your fault. I want to know the apology, where this apology is for these two guys, people that posted this stuff on Twitter, the people that posted this stuff on YouTube. I had to dig this up. Remember these doctors from California that come out and said all that stuff? And everybody was getting banned for it and shut up. Now all of a sudden we have these papers being written about finding out where Wuhan came from, or about the Wuhan lab and about the actual facts about COVID. That'd be interesting. These are just some things I'd brought up about the influenza and upper respiratory. What happened to those numbers? They went down to this year. They're reporting estimates of 22,000 from 2019 to 2020. From 29 to 61. Look, this one, 95 up to 95. They said they thought 61,000 from 2018. And then all of a sudden you see this major half-cut drop, and then this, flu disappeared. Then bronchitis, it's the numbers for bronchitis, 100,000, 49 people die of bronchitis out of 100,000 every year. So about 160,000 people every year. We don't shut down our country, just so we know. Heart disease, are we going to shut and cancer? Are we going to, by the way, this is medical malpractice. I got into a rabbit hole with this. If you guys want me to cover some of the crazy things about medical malpractice, 173,000 people die every year in America from people screwing up at a fucking hospital. Okay, so heart disease and cancer, I don't know, what's that? 1.2 million or something? Yeah, we ain't shutting down for that. McDonald's is not closing its doors where everybody's boycotting Wendy's. This happened in Russia. Quickly, this mechanic was apparently outside. This sicko had gotten a 14 and a 10-year-old over to his apartment, got them intoxicated, did some very unspeakable things to these kids. This man, this 10-year-old, breaks free, runs, finds this Russian. He comes up, beats the crap out of this dude. The man dies in the process. The pedo dies in the process. Now this man's being charged with a murder. And now the citizens are yelling out and saying this man should be touted as a hero, not as a criminal. But that's happened in Russia. By the way, the world's first dinosaur eggs preserved sitting on a nest with fossilized babies. So there's that. We got dinosaur eggs with kids in them. And then this is just some stuff about what happened during the protests, how many people were, number of casualties. The days, look, May 31st, May 31st, May 31st, May 31st, 21, 60, 51, 132. Nobody talks about these numbers, just saying. And I guess I can hold off on some of this. This Hyatt guy, Jonathan Hyatt, did an interview in 2019 with Joe Rogan about social media and your kids. You need to watch that if I were to say anything. This was a cute video for the Marines at a dance-off with South Korea. I'll save that for another day. This is about Nestle. I'm on Nestle's ass right now. I saw something a couple of years ago about them stealing all of Michigan's water and then turning around and selling it to the people. They got a problem in Michigan, man. Think about Nestle. I'm just going to say, think about not Nestle's a crook, man. They discovered some Dead Sea Scrolls, our first ancient Bible text to be found in 60 years, 6,000-year-old skeleton, partly mummified child. How do they get these numbers, by the way? I'll read into this, but I saw that. And I'm like, And then, this is where I'm watching y'all. This is where I popped that chat. All right. I think I did that. My jaw hurts. I said it so flipping fast. Okay. There we go. Ran through it. All you, bud.
All right. Well, like I said, DD not with us here today. Normally he'd be here, but I believe he's got some court-related things going on that he's getting prepared for on his side of the pond. So, like I said, the last couple days or so on my own channel, and I've been broadcasting, putting some stuff out pertaining to the COVID stuff and the various narratives and bits and pieces. This first one that I done, I think, is pretty important, so I think I'll let that one play through, and then we'll be up to sunny days at the top of the next hour, and we'll carry forward. So, without further ado, let me go ahead and get that going. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How we doing? Spectre here for another edition of Midnight Rider. Good to have you aboard on this evening, the 11th day now of March. On the broadcast tonight, we're going to cover a little bit about the old immune system. We're going to talk a little bit about ways to improve that and some of the things that the Mockingbird media will not tell you. The benefits of vitamin D, things of that nature, and give a little bit of an update also regarding the old COVID-19 stuff. I only got a couple, 2-3 articles on the broadcast here this evening, and it's probably going to take the better part of an hour to get through those, along with some of the studies and that, links embedded within the articles and so forth. So we'll see you back here momentarily on the other side. Warning. These social media platforms may be hazardous to your health. Censorship kills. Pain coming. This has been a PSA by Breaking Spectre. Alright, welcome back everybody. Spectre here again. Like I said on the broadcast tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about your health, your immune system, vitamin D, the propaganda especially that has come out against a lot of some effective means to combat what we have had to deal with now for the better part of a year. Stuff that obviously the Mockingbird media will not tell you, and of course this is stuff that the old big tech folks and that would absolutely love to censor. So that's exactly what we're going to get into here tonight, and it's going to be chock full of information, like I said. And man, if I if I had time to go through every single article that I had in my troves here over the last year, we'd be here for weeks. So it's tough to pare this down, unfortunately. And I think what I'll probably do, perhaps over the course of a couple broadcasts here, I'll use this as kind of a launch pad, if you will, to go on a series of things, because this COVID business is kind of taken on a life of its own, right? You can look at it from an economic standpoint. You can look at it from a standpoint of purely just the vaccine side of things. You can look at it from the effects of lockdowns. You can look at it from the standpoint of masking and everything else. And each one of those kind of becomes their own entity underneath the whole COVID umbrella. That being said, perhaps I'll get into some of those here in the subsequent broadcast. But for tonight, this is what we're going to cover. Interesting article out of the Daily Bell says COVID propaganda roundup. Vitamin D doesn't support the immune system? That's kind of an interesting question because, well, if you go back through history here, probably the last time that there was any sort of pandemic, anybody who can just, use an old internet search engine can probably quickly find that back in the 40s, 50s, whenever it was here in the United States, one of the things that happened was this. The patients net used to get wheeled out of the hospitals, and for one simple reason, to get sunlight. Why is sunlight important? Well, obviously it has a little bit to do with vitamin D and how that works inside our respective bodies. And so vitamin D obviously is quite important to your immune health. There's plenty of studies you guys can go find as well. So getting into the article says the latest updates on the new normal, chronicling the lies, distortions, and abuses by the ruling class. Let's see. New York mayor issues double mask decree under color of law. On February 22nd, New York Mayor Bill de Blasio issued a new decree via the corporate media to New York residents. Through June, keep doing exactly what you are doing, not just wear a mask, wear two. Social distancing, get tested monthly. If you do have a case in your home, have the person safely separate. Because that has worked so well before, and, if at first you don't succeed, try again, right? Double down on it. Current authoritarian leadership in the vein of Bill de Blasio under direction of the CDC cites research that has suggested that when a person double masks, wearing a polypropylene surgical mask with a cloth mask on top, and the people around them did the same, the risk of transmitting the virus falls more than 95%. Show me the study that says anything close to that. Please, I'll wait for it. Not breathing. ABC News will be reporting next month at this rate cuts the risk of transmission by 100%. And I think ultimately that's their goal, right? I mean, geez, all you have to do is look at the Georgia Guidestones to figure out what their playbook is, right? I mean, just let's eliminate about 90% of the population of the earth. It'd be all the better. And just imagine all the rejoicing by the Mockingbird media and the big tech folks, right? That's their true goal. For any New Yorkers who maintain the delusional narrative that the social engineers initially pushed, which promised a return to normalcy following the vaccines, let New York Health Commissioner Dave Chokshi put such hopes to rest. Says we now have the valuable new weapon in our arsenal, the vaccine, but we have to think about it as something that is an additional layer of protection, and that includes mask wearing. Now wait a minute. Let's scroll back in time here, right? Last year this time, maybe we could have been fooled, and the whole narrative about, we have to flatten the curve and everything else, and then the continued moving of the goalposts, and, well, we can't do anything until the vaccines are in place. Now, wait a minute. You get a vaccine, and you still have to wear a mask? But why? So the Canadian Public Health Group issues 14-day solitary confinement guidelines for children who test positive for COVID. If the social engineers have their way, Guantanamo Bay tactics for mentally breaking prisoners are coming to your neighborhood. Only this time the targets are your children, not accused terrorists. Canadian region of Peel, outside of Toronto, now is suggesting the parents of children who test positive for COVID isolate them alone in a separate room of the house away from other family members for 14 days. Even kindergartners, even if they have no symptoms. Can you say child abuse? In any case, here's the graphic in that they put forth. What to do if your child is dismissed from school or childcare. Child must self-isolate, which means, in this string of stuff, any other children who live at the same address, more stuff there, and adults living at the same address, more stuff there. Nice little graphic they decided to come up with. So what exactly does self-isolating young children mean? Well, the Peel region lays out the gritty operational details. Stay in a separate bedroom, eat in a separate room apart from others, use a separate bathroom, if possible, and if the child must leave their room, they should wear a mask and stay 2 meters away from others. In your own home, mind you, folks. Your family. Never mind that children, especially ones barely old enough to tie their shoes, require physical touch for normal development. Developmental delay is often seen in children receiving inadequate or inappropriate sensory stimulation. For example, orphaned infants exposed to the bleakest of conditions in Eastern European institutions exhibited impaired growth and cognitive development, as well as an elevated incidence of serious infections and attachment disorders. And that was out of the Pediatrics and Child Health. Alas, it seems that we're all institutionalized Eastern Europeans now, fully ensconced by the Iron Curtain. Infectious disease physician Dr. Martha Fulford sums up what, in a decent world, would be the standard reaction to what amounts to proposed crimes against children. This is shocking. Rarely heard that term, crimes against children, before. Mainstream media denies science, pushes false claims that zinc, vitamin C, and vitamin D don't support immune function. Oh boy. I wonder if they've scrubbed the old archives on the government side of every single study that says otherwise. But, the media just tells us this and we're just supposed to eat it up, right? The corporate press insists at nearly every turn that it supports the science. How ironic, then, that they now push dangerous and false claims that arguably the best-studied natural supplements to fight coronavirus infections. Despite their reputation for boosting the powers of your immune system, a new study reports that vitamin C and zinc supplements don't help COVID-19 patients recover from their illness. That out of U.S. News. Well, wait a minute. Didn't we have a similar study try and paint the same case with hydroxychloroquine and then, oh, wait a minute, somebody got elected and sworn into office on the 20th and then all of a sudden they had to recant that, didn't they? I wonder what changed. So vitamin D, vitamin C, and zinc do, in fact, each support immune function, including critically normalizing the inflammatory response to prevent the deadly cytokine storm phenomenon that is the biggest cause of death in hospitalized COVID patients. The science is quite clear, and the evidence is available to anyone who looks, at least until it's scrubbed from the web. Hence why we are broadcasting this and archiving it along the way. The fundamental issue at hand is that multinational pharmaceutical corporations can't patent, bottle, and sell zinc, vitamin D, or vitamin C at a 10,000% markup, like they do with the drugs that they develop themselves, such as untested mRNA vaccines with no long-term safety studies. And then Pfizer and Moderna vaccines do not meet any conventional definition of the term vaccine and associated deceptive marketing tactics. And that's exactly what it is. They're trying to sell you a product. Just as I was explaining to somebody here today, that is exactly what we're seeing here. And don't think for a second that your quote-unquote doctor is not getting kickbacks behind the scenes from some rep who's pushing the vials and the needles and that behind the scenes. And, at your expense of not knowing, long-term health effects. They get a good little steak dinner or golf trip or whatever. Just a nice little vacation for pushing the jab. But hey. For clarification purposes, when the AP describes China's humble, traditionally made shots, they are referencing the fact that the Moderna and Pfizer's vaccines, using quotes, which utilize untested new mRNA technology, are not actually vaccines according to any conventional definition of the term. So, how do the new mRNA gene therapies work? Per Pfizer's public relations page, unlike a traditional vaccine that uses inactivated dead or portions of actual virus to spur an immune response, mRNA delivers a message to your body's cells via a lipid nanoparticle envelope that instructs the cells to generate the spike protein found on the surface of a coronavirus that initiates infection. Interestingly, when Bill Gates and Anthony Fauci book guest spots on corporate media, they incessantly refer to the vaccine, the miraculous vaccine, the importance of vaccines, etc. However, in the Gates Foundation bankrolled Moderna's 2018 SEC filing, they offer a clearer, more legally precise explanation of their work, correctly referring to them therein as gene therapies and transformative medicine. See the little wordplay they do there? Currently, mRNA is considered a gene therapy product by the FDA. We are creating a new category of transformative medicines based on messenger RNA, or mRNA, to improve the lives of patients. From the beginning, we designed our strategy and operations to realize the full potential value and impact of mRNA over a long time horizon across a broad array of human diseases. And that's out of Moderna's SEC filing. Oh, and don't worry, we're going to cover that here, so stay tuned. You don't need an advanced degree in marketing to understand the lawyerly semantics game at play. Vaccine sounds better researched and less Frankensteinian than experimental gene therapy with no long-term safety studies. This is the same manipulation tactic that Bill Gates employs with his relentless sweater vest wearing, foppish hand gestures, and nerdy vocal intonations during cable news interviews. The idea is to get the target, you and your family, as comfortable as possible with your new role as medical test subjects. Wait a minute. Didn't the Nuremberg Code say something about that? Just a thought. Who wouldn't trust the friendly neighborhood Mr. Rogers-style nerd to shoot straight? You wouldn't hit a man with glasses, would you? So in any case, again, this article chock full of information here. Let me hit some of the highlights out of that. The first of which is, here's that brochure and that out of Canada, what they're actually pushing. Again, highlighting the child and caregiver can isolate together, which means as much as possible stay separate from others, including using a separate bathroom and eating meals apart from others in home. Wear a mask and stay 2 meters apart from others as much as possible. It is strongly recommended to follow the direction for COVID-19 testing in your letter. Again, this is what is being used in Canada. Now over to the other link that was in the article is out of ncbi.nlm.nih.gov. We get COVID-19 emerging rapidly evolving situation. This is the zinc as a gatekeeper of immune function. Let me briefly read the abstract out of this. It says, after the discovery of zinc deficiency in the 1960s, it soon became clear that zinc is essential for the function of the immune system. So here we are, 50 years later, and apparently the science was wrong back then, right? Zinc ions are involved in regulating intracellular signaling pathways in innate and adaptive immune cells. Zinc homeostasis is largely controlled via the expression and action of zinc importers, ZIP 1 to 14, zinc exporters, ZNT 1 to 10, and zinc binding proteins. Anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties of zinc have long been documented. However, underlying mechanisms are still not entirely clear. Here we report molecular mechanisms underlying the development of a pro-homeostasis and disease development. Consequently, the benefits of zinc supplementation for a malfunctioning immune system become clear. This article will focus on underlying mechanisms responsible for the regulation of cellular signaling by alterations in zinc homeostasis. Effects of fast zinc flux, intermediate zinc waves, and late homeostatic zinc signals will be discriminated. Description of zinc homeostasis-related effects on the activation of key signaling molecules, as well as in epigenetic modifications, are included to emphasize the role of zinc as a gatekeeper of immune function. And so, again, I'll drop the link out here once I get through this, and you guys can check these all out as well. The next one highlighted is out of BMC here. Inflammation regeneration, how COVID-19 induces cytokine storm with high mortality. Again, I'll just briefly read the abstract out of this. It says, a newly emerging coronavirus disease, 2019, caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2, was first reported in Wuhan, China, but has rapidly spread all over the world. Some COVID-19 patients encounter a severe symptom of acute respiratory distress syndrome, ARDS, with high mortality. This high severity is dependent on a cytokine storm, which most likely induced by the interleukin-6 IL-6 amplifier, which is hyperactivation machinery that regulates the nuclear factor kappa B, all that good stuff. Pathway and stimulated by the simultaneous activation of IL-6 signal transducer and activator of transcription 3, STAT3, and NFKB signaling is non-immune cells, including alveolar epithelial cells and endothelial cells. We hypothesize that IL-6 STAT3 signaling is a promising therapeutic target for the cytokine storm in COVID-19 because IL-6 is a major STAT3 stimulator, particularly during inflammation. We herein review the pathogenic mechanism and potential therapeutic targets of ARDS in COVID-19 patients. And of course, not to be outdone, then we get to this nice little guy out of the old SEC, which, of course, every single one of these guys has probably got a file. This is, interestingly enough, put into place clear back on November 9th of 2018 for Moderna. Wait a minute. When did this come about again? 2019 was October 2019 is when they had the exercise, right? And then 2020 is when we had the outbreak. But in 2018, they already submitted the SEC filings, registration number 333, by the way. Oh, and so let's check this out. Just to quick little search here. We'll plug in gene therapy. How many times throughout this SEC filing does that show up exactly? Oh, just 23 times. So currently, mRNA is considered a gene therapy product by the FDA, unlike certain gene therapies that irreversibly alter cell DNA and could act as a source of side effects. mRNA-based medicines are designed to not irreversibly change cell DNA. However, side effects observed in gene therapy could negatively impact the perception of mRNA medicines despite the differences in mechanism. In addition, because no product in which mRNA is the primary active ingredient has been approved, the regulatory pathway for approval is uncertain. The number and design of the clinical and preclinical studies required for the approval of these types of medicines have not been established, may be different from those required for gene therapy products, or may require safety testing like gene therapy products. Moreover, the length of time necessary to complete clinical trials and to submit an application for marketing approval for a final decision by a regulatory authority varies significantly from one pharmaceutical product to the next, and may be difficult to predict. So there you go. That, again, if you just do a simple word search in the actual SEC filing, let's see, how many times does it mention vaccine in here? Let's take a peek. About 600 times, I guess. So, again, I guess they just interchange those terminologies, right? Gene therapy, vaccine, it's all the same, right? Wrong. So, nonetheless, like I said, you guys can check that out. You can find the links within the actual article. You guys got that out in chat there, and away we go. All right, that being said, let's flash over to another article that literally just came through just before broadcast here. And so the question is, what are your rights if you're actually immune to this thing? Do you have any at this point? So the American Institute for Economic Research had this as the rights of the naturally immune. There is an important issue that, in the midst of all the talk of vaccines, has not gotten nearly the attention it deserves. The civil rights of those who have already developed natural immunity to the SARS-CoV-2, the virus that is said to cause COVID. Yesterday, I got the results of the test I took to detect whether I had developed a T-cell response to the virus. Like the antibody test I took almost 2 months ago, it was positive. These two things would appear to demonstrate that for all intents and purposes, my body knew exactly what to do with the virus, and that it probably has the equipment to dispose of it again, were it, or one of its cousins, to revisit me in the near to medium term. And even if one or another related strain were to visit me in the future, studies suggest strongly that the attack would be considerably less virulent than the one I overcame without excessive trouble in December. In a halfway rational world, what to do going forward in regard to getting a vaccine for the SARS-CoV-2 virus would be something I discuss with my doctor in the discreet quarters of the examination room. Were it to be offered, I would politely refuse it, and he, seeing the evidence in my file, would raise no objection. And since the danger to me in the future from the virus is minuscule, and the science has clearly borne out what Fauci and Maria van Kerkhove of the World Health Organization flatly said was true before someone upstairs got to them, that asymptomatic transmission of respiratory diseases of this type is virtually non-existent, I'd be free to live my life as I pleased without a mask and with complete freedom of movement. But instead of this, I am facing enormous pressure to get a vaccine in order to recover my basic rights as a citizen. And even then, those in charge are saying I will still have to run around with a completely useless, breath-robbing, and personality-canceling mask on my face. And all this for a disease that, even before the introduction of vaccines, gave those infected by it a roughly 99.75 or 997.5 out of 1,000 chance of survival? The civil authorities have decided, in effect, that fully indemnified pharmaceutical companies, whose pasts are obscenely littered with fraud and the calculated creation of crises in order to up revenues on their products, OxyContin anyone, have the de facto right to force me to take an experimental vaccine that, in the very, very best of circumstances, will only match what my apparently well-functioning body has already given me without any side effects. And this, while straight out telling me that even if I submit to their government-coerced medical experiment, I will probably still not get my full constitutional rights back. This is an important issue that needs to be addressed much more vigorously than has been the case up until now. And I would wholeheartedly agree. Not only that, but I sincerely believe that we are going to have to push the Nuremberg Code stuff very, very heavily. These folks know exactly what they are doing, the fraud that they are pushing, the no need to have any of this bullshit on us. If you have a well-functioning immune system, have the ability to take anything that I just described, vitamin C, D, or whatever concoction you so desire, who are they to tell us that we don't have the ability to function in society? They don't. They have no authority. Again, know your rights, number one. Number two, learn to use I do not consent. And number three, as I've spoken of many a times before, we are going to have to get used to having to work around and through these folks, period. We're going to have to develop our own economies without these folks. These folks do not have our interests in mind at all. All right, well, last but not least for tonight, again, this one's going to be a little bit of a long read here. So some COVID-19 facts, March 2021 updates out of South Front here. And this harkens over to SWPRS, a Swiss version of this where they track this stuff. The world continues to live in the conditions of the permanent media hysteria over the COVID-19 outbreak, with some sources even suggesting that a second wave of the spread of coronavirus is expected in the autumn. At the same time, more and more facts appear suggesting that the media hysteria over the current situation is not based on facts or even artificially created. While the coronavirus is an important factor in influencing the situation around the world, the threat of the outbreak seems to be significantly overestimated. The January 2021 report can be found here, July 2020 report found here, June 2020 report found here, etc., etc. So apparently the guys in Switzerland have been keeping on us. What about a third wave? Well, here's the graphical in regards to that. The deaths per 1,000 persons, and this, I guess, is probably looking at the outbreak that took place back in 1918, 1919, and what happened there. That's kind of a point of reference. It says, will there be a third coronavirus wave in March 2021? Well, SPR was one of the first research groups in the world to predict, already in August of 2020, a second, stronger coronavirus wave in much of Europe and the U.S. The rationale was simple. The seasonality of the coronavirus was well known. The antibody seroprevalence was still very low, even in large parts of Sweden. Authorities relied on mostly useless measures, masks, and they ignored or suppressed highly effective early and prophylactic treatment options. Furthermore, most flu pandemics of the 20th century consisted of 2 or 3 waves, while the 1889 pandemic, suspected to have been caused by a coronavirus, extended over 5 years. Nevertheless, many skeptics and many authorities were surprised by the second wave, the former because they falsely believed in herd immunity, the latter because they falsely believed in ineffective measures, masks, contact tracing, social distancing, etc. So what about a third coronavirus wave in March 2021? Many skeptics again deny it, while many authorities predict or fear it, but for the wrong reasons, namely new virus variants. Yes, new variants have been displacing old variants, but even in places where new variants dominate, they haven't changed the trajectory of the local epidemic, irrespective of the measures in place. Nevertheless, a third wave in March is entirely possible, but for the very same reason as described above, the coronavirus seasons last until March-April. Antibody seroprevalence is still quite low in many places, below 10% in Germany, and authorities still rely on mostly useless measures. Furthermore, some of the existing vaccines appear to be somewhat less effective against some of the new variants, notably the South African and the Brazilian variants. And the mass vaccination campaigns themselves appear to have driven the spread of the coronavirus into high-risk groups in several countries, leading to an additional increase in COVID deaths. The obvious solution to preempt a potential third wave is ivermectin-based early and prophylactic treatment. But, at least in Western Europe and the US, authorities will try to suppress this approach and will insist on their devastating lockdown and late treatment strategy. So, this graph says why the flu has disappeared. Number of specimens positive for influenza by subtype. And I know this is a little bit hard to read, but they're laying out the lineage not determined, Victoria lineage, Yamagata. So apparently these are all different studies or looks at the data, what have you. And of course, this kind of depicts that there out of the World Health Organization FluNet. What about a third wave? Well, here we go again, highlighting the same thing there. Let's see. Looks like this part repeats. Let's scroll through that. Somewhat less effective. Obvious solution, preempt third wave early. Okay, so the vaccine passport agenda. Apparently that part repeated in the article here. On the strategic implications of the coronavirus pandemic. Overall, medical aspects are only the operational level of the coronavirus pandemic. In countries where the median age of COVID deaths is above 80 years, the public health impact of the pandemic will be quite limited and primarily related to serious cases of long COVID. Indeed, even the World Health Organization recently acknowledged that the coronavirus pandemic wasn't necessarily the big one. The strategic level of the coronavirus pandemic, in contrast, is the one that NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden warned of already in March 2020. The temporary pandemic may be used for a permanent expansion of global population surveillance and control. Since Snowden's warning, both Apple and Google have inserted a Bluetooth-based contact tracing interface, entirely useless for pandemic control, into the operating systems of 3 billion mobile phones. Moreover, in a March 2020 TED Talk interview, billionaire vaccine investor Bill Gates already predicted, or rather announced, that eventually what we'll have to have is certificate of who's a recovered person, who's a vaccinated person, and so eventually there will be this digital immunity proof that will help facilitate the global reopening up. The latter, apodictic sentence was later edited out by the TED Talk producers, but a full audio version of the talk remained available, and so the sentence could be inserted back in. And we'll highlight that in the video below. Obviously, the digital immunity proof proclaimed by Bill Gates is exactly what many countries, including Sweden, intend to introduce in the near future. Several governments intend to require vaccine passports even for domestic activities, thus making them essentially mandatory. Besides Bill Gates, another major promoter of vaccine passports is former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, whose Institute for Global Change received money from, guess who? The Gates Foundation. Such vaccine passports are, moreover, a key component of the Biometric ID 2020 project run by the Digital Identity Alliance, which was founded by, Bill Gates again, via Microsoft, and Vaccine Alliance Gavi, and the Rockefeller Foundation, and which is itself linked to the Known Traveler program, initiated by the World Economic Forum and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. All the best players in the world there, folks. The idea of using a pandemic to impose tighter top-down control, modeled after China, was first described in a 2010 Rockefeller Foundation report, the so-called lockstep scenario. Of note, the Gates Foundation and the World Economic Forum also sponsored the notorious Event 201, Coronavirus Pandemic Stimulation, held in October 2019 in New York, about 1 month after the likely emergence of the new coronavirus, but about 2 months before the public first learned of it. The Gates Foundation is also sponsoring Pentagon biodefense contractor EcoHealth Alliance, which performed genetic coronavirus research together with the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Now, one may also wonder why many media outlets, quite a few of which receive money from the Gates Foundation, have exaggerated the risk of the new coronavirus so much that large parts of the public now overestimate its lethality by a factor of 100. From a medical perspective, vaccine passports are neither necessary nor useful to end the coronavirus pandemic. Similar to influenza, those who want to get experimental vaccine protection can do so any time. But also similar to influenza, a vaccine may not protect against new virus variants. For these and other reasons, Dutch digital security and privacy professor J.H. Hoopman called COVID vaccine passports useless and an utter waste of time and effort. But Bill Gates and his powerful friends seem to think otherwise. And here it says, see also the crazy and evil Bill Gates surprised by pandemic conspiracies. That out of Reuters, January of this year. So let's take a quick listen to this. This is the deleted portion of the TEDx that was removed.
Eventually, what we'll have to have is certificates of who's a recovered person, who's a vaccinated person, because you don't want people moving around the world where you'll have some countries that won't have it under control. Sadly, you don't want to completely block off the ability for those, people to go there and come back and move around. So eventually there will be sort of this digital immunity proof that, will help facilitate the global reopening up.
You wouldn't suppose that people would just edit stuff out or chop up audio and video just to, conveniently leave some facts out or shape a narrative now, would we? Nah, that can't possibly happen. And so here we see Bill Gates demanding digital immunity proof in March 2020. And again, you can see the full talk right there in the TEDx. I'll go ahead and drop the link out there for you guys now so you guys can have reference to that. This thing is going to be chocked full of information that you'll want to have at your fingertips. I'll show you here momentarily. It says, why has the flu disappeared since the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic? And that's a good question. Every one of us should be going back to our respective health departments in our counties and saying, show me where our health data is for the flu. Where did it go? And I might even say, even for the CDC or even at your state level, where did it go exactly? And the thing that I always highlight as I talk to people out and about is why are our local places where we pick up our pharmaceuticals still promoting flu vaccines? Why? What's the point? In any case, in 2020, after the global coronavirus pandemic began, influenza viruses mysteriously disappeared from global circulation. See WHO FluNet chart above. Some skeptics suspected that influenza was simply reclassified as COVID, while many journos and fact-checkers claimed influenza was suppressed by face masks and lockdowns. Totally bogus. But influenza has not been reclassified as COVID, and influenza viruses have disappeared even in countries without face masks and lockdowns. And again, they reference Sweden here. While they did not disappear during previous flu epidemics and pandemics, despite face masks, school closures, and other measures. For instance, Japan, despite its widespread use of face masks, experienced a strong influenza epidemic in early 2019, just 1 year before the coronavirus pandemic began. Indeed, numerous studies have shown that face masks simply aren't effective against flu transmission. Instead, flu viruses have been displaced by the more infectious novel coronavirus. This displacement effect is well known from previous flu pandemics. The 1918 flu virus was displaced by the 1957 flu virus, which in turn was displaced by the 1968 flu virus. The 2009 swine flu virus temporarily displaced previous flu viruses, but eventually couldn't assert itself. and even during the current coronavirus pandemic, more transmissible virus strains have repeatedly displaced previous coronavirus strains, often within weeks, despite lockdowns. So again, how effective are these lockdowns? Not very. The last coronavirus pandemic is thought to have occurred in the 1890s, the Russian flu, which is why a coronavirus displacing influenza viruses was not seen for more than a century. It is well known, however, that influenza vaccinations do not reduce the overall incidence of influenza-like illnesses, as influenza viruses simply get replaced by other respiratory viruses, including coronaviruses. But why do countries with little or no COVID, most of them are islands, also have no influenza? Because they close their borders early. If the coronavirus doesn't get in, influenza viruses, which normally oscillate between the northern and southern hemispheres, won't get in either. An interesting and open question is whether the novel coronavirus might permanently suppress some or all of the existing influenza virus strains. This might, at last, be a positive development. So here's another graph, competition between various respiratory viruses, temporal patterns of seasonal respiratory viral infections in Glasgow. Red is the rhinoviruses, orange and yellow are the influenza viruses, and light green are the coronaviruses. So, pretty chart nonetheless. The 2009 swine flu virus almost displacing other flu viruses. There we see that graphically. Sweden, no lockdown, no face masks, no influenza. Chart of that. Timeline of pandemic influenza viruses. Here we see 1918, 50 to 100 million fatalities. 1957 was the H2N2, 1.1 million fatalities. 1968, the H3N2, about 1 million fatalities. 1977, the H1N1, age restricted to less than 25 years with mild disease. And of course, the latest one that we had, the H1N1 pandemic, about 284,000 fatalities. So, interesting thread follow through here. I'm probably not going to hit every single one of these, but this highlights what happened in China as this has progressed. It says, I have a new account, please go follow. Truth About China account says it's New Year's Eve in China. This is how some lockdown communities in northeast China are celebrating tonight. The word jiayu, you hear literally, means add oil. It is often used to show encouragement to stay strong in the face of adversity. And off to the next one. Says a Shanghai fruit shop owner refused to allow his shop to be disinfected. The local government authorities decided the best response was to destroy the entire shop's inventory of fresh produce. So we'll flash forward into a couple more of these. There's a whole string of these in this particular article. Mandatory coronavirus testing has begun in Hong Kong. Their strategy is to ambush neighborhoods without warning and force everyone inside to take a test. This was January 28th.
見到警方咧喺錦屏街呢度咧係奔跑緊，亦都係劃封緊膠帶。
And off to the next, unannounced mandatory testing continues in Hong Kong. Locals have coined these events ambush lockdowns. The man is saying this area has been sealed off. Residents are required to take a test. Staff will come and knock on your door. This as of February 6th. And maybe one more says, this is an excellent overview of the ongoing lockdown situation in Northeast China. It also confirms several of the videos I tweeted over the past 3 weeks. This from February 4th.
A child is standing at the entrance of a neighborhood under lockdown crying, "I want to go home. I really want to go home. I just want to take some rest." Under harsh lockdown measures in many Chinese cities, some people are unable to return home, and some have been trapped at home almost starved to death. A video from last week on January 29 went viral online. It shows a desperate father scolding police officers after he and his family were put under lockdown for a dozen days in Suihua City of Northeast China. He says they have no food at all and his child is starving. But the police stopped him from going out for shopping. They did not seem to show much sympathy. Many are unable to deal with the draconian lockdown measures and the psychological pressure that comes with them. A video from last week on the 28th appears to show a resident from Suihua City jumping off a high-rise building. The person died instantly. This is the third suicide incident in the city within 8 days. Days before, on January 21st, a man committed suicide by hanging himself, and another resident jumped off a high-rise building and died. Strict control measures have been implemented in the city since January 20th. A similar situation also occurred in Tonghua City, also in northeast China. In another northeast province, Jilin, authorities suddenly announced the lockdown on January 20th. They require all neighborhoods to be shut, and soon they put seals on the doors of every household. Some of the doors are even welded. As a result, hundreds of thousands of people are running out of food. Many are calling for help online. On January 25th, a woman in the city jumped from the 10th floor. Netizens lamented that the number of deaths and injuries due to the lockdown far exceeds the number of deaths from the latest coronavirus. In addition to locking down households and cities, authorities also show their prevention efforts by forcing people to wear masks. A woman refused to wear a face mask on the street. Several policemen pushed her away with her hands tied behind her back. Another woman was treated the same way. She says her hands are injured.
Crazy. And that's just a small snippet of things to come here, even on this side of the world, folks. Thousands of isolation units, aka jail cells, have been built in Hebei province, with 2,600 in Jingtai city alone. Anyone who may have had contact with a confirmed case is brought to these quarantine facilities at their own expense, where they will live for up to 21 days. And again, there's a whole bunch more of these, what's going on worldwide with these lockdowns and everything else. Let me scroll all the way to the bottom here, because there is some more good information down here I want you guys to see. And like I said, there's a whole string here. You guys can check each of those out if you wish. Still scrolling. All right, here we go. All right, so the latest SPR COVID updates. Lots of good links down here. General, what about a third wave? Why the flu has disappeared? Lockdowns in China in 2021. Coronavirus mutations update. A lot of good information from January to present. Regarding masks, Danish mask study, no benefit. On the suppressed Danish mask study from October of last year. World Health Organization mask study seriously flawed from September of last year. In terms of vaccines, the vaccine passport agenda from February of this year. COVID RNA vaccines, more than 1,000 deaths, February 2021. Can COVID vaccinations drive COVID deaths? Vaccines, successes and controversies, December of last year. In terms of early treatment, the fight against ivermectin has begun, and much the same campaign as what we saw with hydroxychloroquine last year, and later had to recant after a certain somebody was sworn in after January 20th. Ivermectin, World Health Organization review indicates effectiveness. Why ivermectin works and where to buy it. Remdesivir, an epidemic failure. The fight against HCQ from December of last year. And country profiles, you can go into Singapore, Switzerland, Germany, Belgium, Sweden, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Africa and Latin America, Belarus, Italy, Nembro, Italy, and some others thrown in for good measure. Other facts and updates and that dating back to about June of last year. So, again, I'll drop the link out there one more time in case you're late joining. Just so you have this. Again, there's a wealth of information in here. I would encourage you guys to check it out. Use that in your arsenal of stuff as you have discussions with folks out on the street in your daily lives, things to share, that sort of thing. I'm going to have a lot more to say about this, obviously. Again, as I started off the broadcast here tonight, talking about this, there's so many different factions and different ways you can parse this. Whether you look at it in terms of vaccines, whether you look at it in terms of remedies and that that are more safe and probably more effective, with studies and that support them. If you look at it in terms of masks or lockdowns and things of that nature, and the effects of the lockdowns, what do they do to a society as a result? I've got Boku articles on every single one of them, literally. So we'll probably touch upon that in some subsequent broadcasts. But for tonight, I think that's where we'll leave it. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you. All right, how we doing? Sunny days, good to see you in-house. There's a little snippet of what I covered the other night, and of course, if you were with me last night, you'll know that I went through the whole vaccine side of things, and we'll continue on with that here over the course of some subsequent broadcasts.
All right, yeah, good stuff.
What do you got in store for today?
Oh, you know, just a few articles and then some clips that I hope will make people laugh. And yeah, this news cycle is really wearing on me.
Well, I think it kind of wears on everybody, but I mean, there's obviously some major themes in that we can pull on, one of which is the COVID stuff. You look at the stuff going on at the border, and of course, you know, the whole reset agenda, the stuff playing out, and the financials, all of it, and then just the daily ridiculousness on top of that. I mean, it's the cancel culture, you name it. It's just world gone mad. Best way to describe it.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
So, all right. Well, I'll get out of your hair. Appreciate you guys tuning in here today, and we'll see you back here on the next one. Take care.
Okay. Thanks, Vector.
See ya.
Hey, everybody. It's sunny days. I could use a sunny day. It's been cloudy here for a few days, but nevertheless, the show must go on. So I'm going to grab the share and we're going to play Dead Cat's video today and start the show off with that.
Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand an evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand therefore, having girded your waist with truth, having put on the breastplate of righteousness, having shod your feet with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, with which you will be able to quench all of the fiery darts of the wicked one. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, being watchful to this end with all the perseverance and supplication for all the saints, and for me, that utterance may be given to me, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains, and willfully so, that in it I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. Amen.
And that was Dead Cat, and I love that. He's so passionate as he speaks. Good to remember those words. So let's get on to it. So I have a few articles I'll pull up. Let's see, how long is this one? It's just 5 or 6 minutes. I probably won't read the whole thing. I'll skim through it a little bit. But Representative Lauren Boebert is a standout, and this was from the Washington Examiner by Paul Bedard. Have gun will teach. Pistol packing Colorado Rep Lauren Boebert has drawn a lot of attention to herself for testing the limits of liberal Washington's gun hate. First, she walked around the city for a video showing a Glock on her hip, and she has strolled the halls of Congress with it on. In a Zoom call, she sat in front of two AR-15s, a pistol and a shotgun, and even went through the process of winning a concealed carry permit from Washington Metropolitan Police. And there she is. She's a beautiful young lady. New Representative Lauren Boebert is co-chair of the Second Amendment Caucus. A photo is courtesy of her office. You want it in case you need it. And you know, I have my firearm in case I need it. I never want to have a day where I don't have it and then need it, the first-term Republican firebrand said in an interview. Because of House rules, she didn't have her Glock on January 6th when she was in the chamber and election protesters stormed the Capitol. I was disarmed and I wasn't able to defend myself, she said, making her point. Apparently, it was also made a strong impression on other members who suddenly were interested in carrying a weapon in Washington for the first time. And now Boebert is showing them the ropes. I've had the privilege of hosting classes for members of Congress and the Senate to receive their Washington, D.C. concealed carry permit. Yes, she told me, we're making sure that the members are fully able to protect themselves within all bounds of the law, she added. Without naming names, Boebert indicated that she has helped about a dozen members so far. You need more than two hands, she said, of those she guided through the process. There is an extensive course that anyone needs to go through to obtain their permit here in Washington, D.C. We were able to bring in an instructor and have members participate in that course. And then they went to Maryland and another target shooting range required for D.C. law. And then they went down to MPD and filled out all the paperwork to receive their permits, she said. For Boebert, who called while standing near the fence surrounding the Capitol that she's dubbed Fort Pelosi, she and her class members are concerned about their safety in high crime Washington as they face growing death threats. We certainly have to protect ourselves, Boebert said. Many death threats have been directed at her. I have received credible death threats. I mean, these people have been contacted by the FBI. My family has received death threats, and I'm not alone in that. There are many members, she said, including Democrats. So her efforts and history on Second Amendment issues give her credibility in the fight against gun control pushed by House liberals and President Biden. For example, in her first term, she was named co-chair of the House Second Amendment Caucus. Back home in Rifle, Colorado, she owns the Shooter's Family Restaurant, where the wait staff packs heat. So that's pretty interesting. I'm really glad that she's in our government and was able to get a seat. And then I had this article too about Marjorie Taylor Greene. I didn't get voted into office by politicians. I serve the people. Bless her GOP colleagues who still don't seem to get it. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, and this is by Lisa, I think it's a Lisa Audette. Oops, I'm going to lose it. Let's see. Like to give credit. It's 100%fedup.com, and it was from Lisa Audette who wrote it. Okay. So Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia is causing the swamp to take notice of her direct attacks on the radical left in Congress. In turn, she has taken many attacks from the radical left for her refusal to back down. She is also under attack from her GOP colleagues and held nothing back in her statement for them today. She's a spitfire. I'm not going to go into this. She really stands up for herself and stands up for the people. And I'm really glad she's in there too. So then I have this. And this is just a feel-good story. It's out of WND and it's by Amanda Thomason it was originally published in the Western Journal. And let's see. Woman reunites high school sweethearts 51 years after they gave her up for adoption. It was spring of 1968 and two families were meeting to talk over their less than ideal circumstances. Donna Horn, a cheerleader, and Joe Kugel, a star athlete. Both students at the Indianapolis High School had been in a relationship for 2 years, and now Horn was pregnant. Joe will do whatever you call him to do, Kugel recalls her father telling Mr. Horn, according to the South Bend Tribune. If you want Joe to marry Donna, he will marry Donna. If you want Joe to keep this secret, Joe will keep it secret. If you want Donna to have the baby, Joe will support her. If you don't want him to be part of her life, Joe won't. The two were told they could never see or speak to each other again, and they obeyed. On November 5th, 1968, Donna headed to the hospital to give birth to her daughter, an especially cruel day to have her child because it was also Joe's 17th birthday and Donna was still in love with him. Since she was putting the baby up for adoption, Donna had decided not to see or hold her baby after giving birth. But as she later said, this was some mistake. The baby, who came to be Laura Mabry, was brought to Donna, and for a half hour the two bonded, a fact Donna said has always haunted her. Wayne and Darlene Montgomery adopted the child, and Laura grew up, and she even went to the same high school her parents had gone to, though she didn't know it. It wasn't until the 1990s, when Laura had 2 children of her own, that she took an interest in tracking down her biological parents. But the information she had access to was limited, and she set the project aside. In 2019, though, she took a DNA test, which led her to connecting with her mother, 51 years old, after Donna had given up the love of her life and their baby. We started communicating by text and email, Laura said, according to ABC News. She said, "Are you interested in knowing who your father is?" I was like, "Of course I am." She sent her dad a text message that stopped him in his tracks. "Hi, Joe. I got your name from Donna," she wrote, according to the South Bend Tribune. "I don't know how to lob this to you, but I think you're my biological father. I don't want anything from you. I just want to find out where I came from." My freaking head just dropped onto my desk going, "What?" Joe recalled, "Obviously, Donna and I spent 2 years together in high school. Obviously, we knew she got pregnant." But that's all Joe knew, because the two had broken contact. That didn't mean he'd forgotten Donna or the child, though. He thought about them often. "Her feelings and the things she went through were 100 times more magnified than mine," Joe said of Donna and their situation all those years ago. And I thought, do I have a son? Do I have a daughter? I can't tell you over the years how many times I've wondered. In all those years, Joe had married and divorced twice and had spent time as a teacher, coach, and business owner. He also was a father of 2 children. And Donna, likewise, had married twice, but her second husband had since passed away. She also had 3 children, worked at a finance center, and beaten breast cancer. 2019, they were both single, and it was Laura who brought them back together. I gave him her phone number, and they started to talk immediately, and they just immediately bonded because, he was divorced and her husband had passed away, Laura told ABC News. So they were both single, and they immediately started talking. And I mean, that was just that. When they met in person, it was a done deal. We saw each other and we hugged each other and we cried, Joe told the South Bend Tribune. We knew, you know what I mean? The two got married in May, and Laura gives peace knowing where she came from and knowing she helped a love story pick up where it left off all those decades ago. So I'm just going to flash back to the article because it does, I believe, have some pictures on it. So these were them, because it's kind of nice to see who you're talking about. Wow, that's pretty cool. They got back together. And then I think there's one more pill. This must be the dad. And there's the mom and dad that got back together. Cool. I don't know. I need a feel good story. All right. So, because these other 2 are very disturbing. These other 3 stories I grabbed are very disturbing. So this one is out of WND, and it's "Keep Out of Reach of Parents. Hormone Drug Features Disturbing Label." And this was published March 15th. I don't see, by Mary Margaret Olahan from the Daily Caller. So I'm just going to read part of it. So a trans girl from Brazil is selling hormone drugs online, occasionally delivering in packaging that says, "Keep out of reach of parents." Octocanoko Pharmaceuticals offers a variety of hormone drugs to help those that fight against dysmorphia in their everyday lives, according to the website. The site says it's run by a trans girl known as Lillian, who is reportedly from Brazil. So I had lots of problems with my therapy and saw that lots of other trans girls had the same problems with accessing high quality HRT hormone replacement therapy, specifically because of the high price in most countries, Lillian wrote on the site. So I decided to make accessible hormones to help those that fight against dysphoria in their everyday lives. We take every safety measure to maintain a safe and potent product while staying accessible to everyone, Lily continued. Most places use cheaper and lower quality oils such as castor or GSO. I prefer to use MCT. It is a bit more expensive, but it is worth it, having a longer shelf life, 7 years or more, being less viscous, therefore easier to inject, and a cleaner appearance. One of these drugs is the estrogen medication estradiol valerate, also known as delestrogen. A 2019 review of delestrogen conducted by the online medical resource on pharmaceuticals XR list found that all women taking estrogen should be under close clinical surveillance. So there you have it. There's this person selling these online, and she's selling them, it sounds like, to minors and children, being that they have this keep away from direct sunlight, heat, and moisture, and keep out of reach of parents. Yeah. Very disturbing. And then this I came across out of Breitbart. Netflix shows Paradise PD uses sex-loving Jesus to mock American gun owners. So this is by Our Hopkins. Season 3 of Netflix's animated series Paradise PD, about inept small-town cops, features a Jesus who comes down off the cross to shoot his enemies and have sex with bikini-clad women. After climbing down off the cross and using 2 machine guns to mow down his enemies, Jesus is approached by 2 bikini-clad women. The 3 then disappear from the screen. Sensual sounds clinch the intimation that sex is occurring. The episode also features a cowboy as president of the NRA, and the episodes depict the cowboy talking to an inquisitive young man who wants to know if the world can be made safer via smart guns. This is so disturbing. I won't read the rest of it, but this is just perfect example why I quit Netflix, and many others have too. It's just, it's sad that they can't come up with better storylines and something better family oriented. And this stuff continues to be put in online, and where cancel culture does not cancel these things, but, cancels President Trump's speech, etc. Dr. Seuss. I told you they were disturbing to me anyway. And then this one. This was out of the Gateway Pundit. WTH, 8-year-old social media star dating 13-year-old influencer with her mom's blessing, by Cassandra Fairbanks. An 8-year-old Ukrainian social media star has revealed that she is dating a 13-year-old fellow influencer with her mother's blessing. The scandal has resulted in a massive uproar in the nation, especially considering that the girl's mother, Daria Makanets, who runs her social media accounts, has been posting disturbing photos of the child with the teenager. In one now deleted post, the teenager posted a photo of the child brushing her teeth in her underwear. In another, the two appeared in bed with each other. Just so the depravity that is going on and that is allowed online and on social media is just so bonkers. And speaking of bonkers and conservative brief, Biden spends night at his home in Wilmington, 4th overnight trip home since taking office. This was out of Conservative Brief by Martin Walsh. Joe Biden on Tuesday kicked off his Help Is Here tour of the nation, when he thinks will be a good way of showcasing the highly partisan $1.9 trillion COVID-19 stimulus bill. With many in the mainstream media are focused on the roadshow, many may not realize that Biden just spent another night at his home in Wilmington, Delaware. Last week, Biden and his wife, Jill Biden, took Marine One to their Wilmington home and didn't return to Washington until Sunday. On Tuesday, Biden was in Chester, Pennsylvania to supposedly discuss the relief bill that they claim is so popular. Biden then spent the night at his home in Wilmington on Tuesday night, marking his 4th overnight trip back home since January 20th, the New York Post noted. It went on said that Biden's home in Wilmington, sorry if I was mispronouncing that, Delaware, is roughly a half-hour drive from the business, and that he would spend the night there in his 4th overnight trip home since taking office January 20th, the Post reported. So that's just kind of interesting. I wonder what's going on. Maybe nothing's going on, but I just, with all the weird stuff that's going on. I just felt that was weird. So, DJ HJ Media had this article. Lindell, MyPillow CEO, strikes back countersuing Dominion, talking about suing Facebook and Twitter. And it's by Carrie Donovan. But in this, I just found it interesting that I believe this is the part I found so interesting, because we kind of all knew that that's been out in the news. But Lindell has been living in undisclosed locations because of safety concerns, he said. The MyPillow CEO said he hasn't been back to his home in Minnesota in 2 months. And he told the Dominic Natty Show he has teams investigating cancel culture, Twitter, and Facebook. Now, we did hear that he is going to launch some kind of new social media platform. So that's kind of exciting. This was out of Reclaim the Net. YouTube demonetizes news outlet over a Mike Lindell video. WND is one of the oldest news outlets online, by Didi Rankovic. So conservative site WorldNet Daily has been demonetized by YouTube because of a video of Lindell. The site issued a statement saying the demonetization over the short video meant that big tech is trying to achieve totalitarian control over users on social platforms, which we know, but it's like they continue to go after people. Let's see. I believe this is just from today. Updated March 17, 2021 at 3:49. This is by Nicholas Sherman. House Republicans pass resolution to support earmarks. Isn't that wonderful? House Republicans passed a resolution Wednesday to support restoring earmarks. In a 102 to 84 vote in the House Republican Conference, GOP lawmakers reversed their previous decision to ban earmarks, according to the Hill. Directed congressional spending, otherwise known as earmarks, allows lawmakers to put spending requests into large bills, particularly for projects in their home state or district. The effort helps with re-election and, as some argue, gets lawmakers more engaged in the legislative process. Republicans voted in 2011 to get rid of earmarks in an attempt to end such so-called pork spending, according to CNN. And members of the conservative House Freedom Caucus oppose reviving earmarks, calling the policy legislative bribery. I think we've got 30,000 trillion in debt and people are tired of the swamp, and the GOP should be ashamed of itself if it jumps headfirst right back into the swamp, Texas Republican Rep Chip Roy said. Republicans move to allow the earmarks, or the use of earmarks again, comes as Democrats are preparing to allow earmarks to be used in upcoming spending and infrastructure legislation. All right. So I think we'll end on this one. This one was a little bit, well, kind of funny. I mean, GoFundMe to pay off Prince Harry and Duchess Meghan's $10 million mortgage. And what actually happened is, unbelievably, oh, this is going to launch. Sorry about that. Let's see if I can. Yeah. So, and this is by Joseph Curl out of Just the News. So one of Markle's friends, because they were cut off by his father, and, they only had 15 million left to him from his mother. And Merkel said their life was tough, especially leaving Britain and being forced to make do in their 24,000 square foot home on 22 acres worth 18 million that was loaned to them by film director Tyler Perry. Anastasia Hansen, who lives not far from the couple newly purchased home in California, opened up a GoFundMe page to help the struggling couple. I am raising funds to pay off the mortgage for the Montecito, California home of Harry and Meghan, she writes on the page, where she set up a $10 million goal. We're 2 million supporters to donate just $5 each, which, like, a lot of supporters don't have $5 anymore to their name, people. The goal is met and the loan can be paid off. After their interview, I was moved with compassion to help get their home paid off. And now they are financially independent. This will help and be a loving gift. So anyways, This is just disgusting. I'm sorry, but millionaires that have to do GoFundMe, and of course, GoFundMe, they were okay with that. Although they, people that really need money and have different opinions are kicked off of GoFundMe. But anyways, the fundraising effort had only pulled in $110 and the page has been removed. So, but despite the apparently failed fundraising effort, Harry and Meghan appear to be rebounding. They recently made mega deals with, you guessed it, Netflix and Spotify, worth more than $100 million. Ugh, black. All right. So that got ugly fast. All right. So I'm going to go to my bookmarks and play some clips. All right. Well, this was kind of an interesting one. I'm glad that I'm not this bicycle rider. It's pretty crazy. Oh, let's see. I'll start it again. I don't think there's any sound with it. But he got hit and run over. But he's alive. He's moving. He gets up, looks around, picks up his bike. Pick your bike up. Oh my gosh. Talk about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But thankfully, the guy was okay. This one's a little longer. I'm going to play it. This is Magdalene Rose. And I thought it kind of interesting what she has to say. Let me see. I want to say it was like 8 minutes. Oh, no, 153. Nope, 9 minutes. Really good time. Okay, so it is 9 minutes, but I did find this interesting, just a different perspective. Let's see if it'll play. For some reason, it's buffering. All right, I don't think I was having problems with my internet, but not sure. Let me see. Sorry about that. Okay, let me try it again. No, I don't know. Maybe I don't have enough power to do that. Okay, I'm going to play this one. I'm not sure if I played it on this show, but I don't think I have.
Me and my on January 6th, along with over 1 million Americans. And thanks to the media, we've been labeled white supremacist, Nazi, deplorable, Uncle Tom, white nationalist, anti-immigrant, and the list goes on. But every race and religion was represented there to support the president. Why? His policies are America first, and we all are Americans.
I really liked that video. I thought that was neat, how many groups it represented, and that they had all gone there on that day. And then this was just a cute little video. The little doggy gets happy when it eats. Okay, I was giggling and laughing my butt off. If that didn't make you smile, I don't know what will. It's pretty funny. All right. Sorry, I'm scrolling. I'm probably making you dizzy. That's too bad I couldn't play that one because she's got an interesting perspective, I think. Well, this was interesting from Grace Kelly. Are we in this together for those who loved whose loved ones missed cancer treatments, went undiagnosed, died alone in care homes, died of suicide. I see you. For those who feel there is no reason to live, for the parent who has lost their business, for the mom isolated with her autistic child, for the grieving spouse home alone, I see you. For the lady who can't wear a mask because of post-traumatic stress disorder due to abuse, the man whose only form of communication is lip reading, the child who gets panic attacks when she wears one. I see you. And for the children who are missing their friends, who can't travel to see their parent, who are feeling isolated, who are afraid of hugging, who are suicidal, I see you. And I think I've told you before, if you watched my show, that I love Grace Ann Kelly. I don't know if she's in Ireland. She does have an Irish sounding voice, I believe. She makes good videos. I like this. It's just a GIF, whatever you call it. I like this, that Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny are fighting. Open up, stay at home. Open up, stay at home. Okay, let's see. This was Jim Jordan. Big Duck controls the country. They control the country by deciding what we see.
The amendment is these tech executives do. In practice, big tech controls the country, and they control the country by deciding what we see. Well said, Mr. Travis. I mean, if this doesn't underscore why we need to remove the liability protection in Section 230, I don't know what does. Mr. Greenwald makes many of the same points in his written testimony, and then he says this about the specific question at hand at this committee hearing today. He says, how Congress sets out to address Silicon Valley's immense and undemocratic power is a complicated question. Well, it is, posing complex challenges. The proposal to vest media companies with an antitrust exemption in order to allow them to negotiate as a consortium or cartel seeks to rectify a real and serious problem. Very true. But, and this is important, but empowering large media companies could easily end up creating more problems than it solves. He goes on to say this, further empowering this already powerful media industry, which has demonstrated it will use its force to silence competitors under the guise of, quote, quality control, runs the real risk of transferring the abusive monopoly power from Silicon Valley to corporate media companies. And this last clause is important. Or even worse, encouraging some sort of de facto merger in which these two industries pool their power to the mutual benefit of each. We already saw that happen. We saw it in last fall's election. Both Mr. Travis and Mr. Greenwald cite this in their written testimony. Last fall, when big media teamed up with big tech to make sure the American people didn't hear about the Hunter Biden story in the weeks leading up to a presidential election. So we've already seen them team up against we the people. And now we have legislation that's going to give big media this consortium and cartel power. At the same time, we're looking to use antitrust law to deal with big tech. We're going to give an antitrust exemption to big media. Maybe that's the right course, but I got real questions about that, whether we should move in that direction. So I look forward to hearing from our witnesses. I want to thank them again for coming, particularly Mr. Travis, who traveled here in person. I appreciate his good work, and we look forward to a chance to hear from each of our witnesses, Mr. Chairman. And with that, I yield back.
Yeah, I had seen an article about that we should be concerned that big tech is becoming a country. And then later on, I saw an article that big tech is already a country. They're already acting like they're a country, which is really sad, scary. Yeah, I might have played this last week, but I'll play it again.
Who do you think to disarm Americans? I was raised, Mr. Speaker, in a Democrat home. So I understand how these policies are deceiving. I understand that we're told guns are scary. That's what we were told, and that's what we believed, because we trusted the people that we voted for. But just as most things in life, I grew up and learned that there's a better way to live. I was ignorant to firearms and the proper use of them. When I became a business owner, I needed to protect myself. There was an altercation outside of my restaurant where a man was physically beat to death. There were no weapons involved. He was beat to death by another man's hands. I have a lot of young girls who work in my restaurant, and we needed an equalizer. I'm 5 foot tall. I barely weigh 100 pounds. I need something against a stronger potential aggressor to defend myself with. Talk about women's rights. Don't take my right away to protect myself. I mean, seriously, what are we doing here? I ask the supporters of this legislation, who do you think you are to disarm Americans and leave them vulnerable without help? You want to defund our police and yet leave us without a way to protect ourselves. Our founding fathers gave us a list of items and said, don't touch these things. And I'm telling you,
Gentlelady's time has expired.
keep your hands off.
Gentlelady's time has expired. Members are reminded to address.
Woohoo! I like that little Spitfire. Woohoo! And then this was so cute. Someone asked, caption this photo. Yeah. Caption this photo. Anyway. And then there was this one.
Family, neighbors get vaccinated as well. Because here's the point. Do all this. If we do our part, if we do this together, by July the 4th, there's a good chance you, your families and friends will be able to get together in your backyard or in your neighborhood and have a cookout or a barbecue.
Mr. Biden, would you let me tie my shoes too? We can't run our businesses anymore because they're gone now due to lockdowns. And we've lost our jobs. But it's okay, here comes that $1,400 even though we were promised $2,000. And America's already in an insurmountable amount of debt. I'm just glad to hear you say that if I get the vaccination, I can possibly have dinner with my family on the 4th of July, Independence Day, where we celebrate freedom in America. Thank you, sir.
I love that. That was pretty good. And then this is a little heart-wrenching. I'll warn you about this one. I thought this was really neat. Okay, this young man must have, or maybe it's a girl, I'm not sure. This person has probably like something wrong with maybe their muscles. There's special needs, but I just liked it. I really liked it. So.
Go, 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 go! Take it into it, take it into it! Go! Get out, get out! Let's go, let's go! Yeah! Yeah! There you go! Good job! This one, hey.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was muted. I don't know if I was muted for the whole video before. This was Pi Day over the weekend, so I kind of like that little GIF. I think I'm okay. I think I'm okay now. This one I was going to play, but it has music. And then this one, I just commented that such a special story. What a neat that they, cheered this person on, and this person is reaching their goals. So cool. And that we don't know what other people go through sometimes on a daily basis. And then this was cool too. Another little heart-wrenching one.
Vamos a darle el aplauso enorme, fantástico. Sí. Ahí, a nuestra atleta electiva. Muy bien. Carlitos, levanta las manos. Enhorabuena. Sí.
That must have been a different country, but that is so cool. That little boy just pushed and pushed himself, and he made it over the line. And then this is the savvy truth.
All right, y'all. Government spending all of our money are a bunch of Neanderthal dim-doms who never had to pass first grade math, probably because they became a politician. We're passing a $2.2 trillion stimulus deal divided by 330 million people means that we could, each of us, possibly get $6,000. But no. Now, some certain select people will be receiving $1,200, give or take, but does anyone want to know where the extra 96% of your money's going? They're going to stupid, broken government programs, half of which I don't even think exist, and they're lining your politicians' pockets. Can I hear money laundering much? And here's just a few. $300 million to public broadcasting. $300 million for endowment of the arts. $20 billion to the post office, because why not? $100 million to NASA. $30 billion for the Department of Education, because it's not like they're already ready to get billions.
You know your little genius can't even name a foreign country?
One country in the whole world.
Pandora?
Pandora's not a country.
$25 million for capital cleaning supplies.
And in our new house,
$100 million to essential air carriers, because it's not like they already live off of loans from the government. $40 billion to the Take Responsibility for Workers and Families Act, but who's ever heard of that?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say
what?
$25 million for FAA administrative costs. $25 billion for the transit infrastructure. $90 million for international disaster assistance, even though our own country needs help. Still think they care for you?
Savvy, she's stepping up her game. I haven't ever seen her do a video like that before. That's pretty cool. Good job. Let's see. Let's try this one. Freedom Alliance.
Every part, from all political, from all faiths and none, from every county and province will stand together to say no. Ulster says no, but so does Munster, Leinster, Connacht, England, Scotland, Wales, Germany, Holland, Peru, right across the world. We will stand together to withdraw our consent. Go to www.freedom-alliance.org for resources to help you through all of this. And join us in the Rally of Freedom. I look forward to seeing you there.
Little kitty. That's funny, the little kitty. Are you still hearing me though? Gosh, I'm having problems with muted. Eek! All right. This is kind of funny too. Let's see.
It just is
We won't listen to him much and get to the fun part.
You need to want to get back to normality, but you're only going to set yourself back if you just completely push aside the public health guidelines, particularly when we're dealing with anywhere from 55 to 7 infections per day in the United States. That's a very, very high baseline.
Can you tell I'm feeling pretty sassy today? It does help. It really does help to laugh. So when I'm muted, I'm probably mostly laughing anyway. Sorry. And then this was pretty funny.
Classic. Oh, here's a fun one. Uno.
Absolutely not. What's it like to have fun at the expense of Latino culture? Creator. Offensive to atheists. Canceled. The Mandalorian. Well, you know who's in that? Gina Carano. Canceled. Go fish. As if overfishing is not a problem in many areas of the world. Canceled. My favorite. Battleship. I'll get this from my grandpa who fought in World War II. Absolutely canceled. Pac-Man. Oh, this seems fun. The Thomas the Train Engine fracking set. I don't think so. Joe Biden canceled that on day one. Here's a fun one. Avengers. Ever Googled Robert Downey Jr.? Canceled. Oh, hungry hippos. You know what? They are hungry because they're going extinct. Oh, super fun. Jenga. 2 towers falling. Think about it. Canceled. Here's every kid's favorite about to be gone, the minion. Okay, I just looked it up. You know what the definition of a minion is? A servant of a powerful person or a slave. Absolutely not in this climate. Honestly, 500,000 COVID deaths and we're still playing with Gravedigger. Oh, Nerf guns. Might as well be real guns. Canceled. Oh, look at this fun basketball hoop. A white kid dunking. Now we're just lying to people. Oh, here's a fun game. Cone of Shame. Save yourself. Shame a friend. You'd think I'd want to cancel this game, but the cancel culture actually thrives on shame, so keep this. Catan. Imperialism. Here's another fun one. Jumanji. Before you buy this, why don't you look up some old Kevin Hart tweets? Canceled. Guess who? Does your person look like a male but identify as a female? Oh, sorry. Well, unfortunately, if we discover anything you've done in your past, sorry is no longer enough. Canceled. Finally, the only book allowed in our household, Anti-Racism Baby. Yep, it's hard enough explaining racism to an infant child, much less anti-racism. But I got an Instagram photo of me reading that to my child, and it got a lot of likes, so that should solve it. Chinese checkers. Classic ableism.
I think this is the guy who also did those TikTok videos in the grocery store where he was going through all this food and this food is canceled and that food. Satire. I have to enjoy it. And then there was this.
Because I didn't want to have gray hair. It's crazy. Ooh, even my chest hairs. But I wore one of these masks, kind of like, I guess you say, a science experiment, right? Let's test it, see the data. This is what it looks like when you wear a mask with sheetrock dust. How about that? Look on the inside. So my question is, if this is sheetrock dust, I thought it was supposed to protect me from a virus. So if we're not listening to the TV news, we're thinking real life, scientific. Do these work? Do they save lives? Are we going to ignore reality? Or are we just going to go along with the narrative? That's the question.
Yeah. Reality. Oh, and then I put this one aside because I thought this was very interesting. CDC, this is Darla Shine on Twitter. CDC is warning of a zombie apocalypse. Seriously, here's the link. And then it's the blogs. And then you go to the blog, cdc.gov, Preparedness 101, Zombie Apocalypse. And this was in May 16th, 2011 by Ali Khan. And it talks about The Walking Dead and zombies and then better safe than sorry and what you should have for emergency stuff. I don't know. They're creepy, CDC, anyway. And actually, it looks like Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, if you've seen her video, it's quite the wake up. Will the master zombie please stand up? Yeah, I think she originally tweeted it. And then there was this one, never drink and drive. Good advice.
Greg, pass this idiot. Greg, pass this idiot.
There's a dog driving that vehicle. Oh. Then Nick Searcy is that actor that is very defiant in California.
Well, hello there, non-essential walk in Los Angeles fans. It's been a while. It's Nick Searcy. It's day 56. I'm back here walking in Burbank, where I live. And you know, we all got some bad news this morning. Those of us that have been supporting Tin Horn Flats in their fight against the communists that now run the Burbank City Council. There was a news article that came out this morning saying that the city had gotten a judge to allow them to padlock Tin Horn Flats doors, to not allow them to continue to do business. And so I was concerned, and I thought, my gosh, I got to get down there to say something to those guys before they padlock the business. And then I came down here and I was cheered up because not only are they open for business, they took off the doors. They took off the doors. What are you communists gonna padlock now? See, this is how you do it, people. This is how you resist unjust laws. Burbank City Council allowed Target to stay open, allowed Costco, all the big box stores, all the fast food restaurants. They allowed everybody else to do business, but not this little small business that's been here for 50 years. That business was going to go under because of the stupid, nonsensical regulations that the totalitarians in Sacramento, like Gavin Newsom, enforced selectively on small business, while letting big business continue, while making exceptions for movie studios. They could sit outside and have their meals, but that restaurant couldn't open. Well, you know what? They took the doors off. Padlock that, communists.
I love that. And that was from Nick Searcy. He's on Twitter. And he did make that, he didn't make a movie too recently. I think it's the one, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. Soko was talking about him. Oh, I can't think of his name. Ben Shapiro did something where he started joined some others on like a movie company to try to help get some movies out there. And again, I don't know where Ben Shapiro's at. I just have seen Nick Searcy, and pretty sure he did some kind of movie thing with him. This is kind of interesting. It is graphic. I'm not sure if I should show that one. But what it says is, woman shot multiple times by Nashville police after charging them with a pickaxe. So she has a pickaxe and a baseball bat, and this gal tries to intervene, and then this woman lunges at them, and yeah, didn't end up well. These are too long. I've only got 4 minutes. Let me see what else. Oh, this was from James O'Keefe 7 hours ago. He says, where it all began nearly 15 years ago, forced Rutgers U to live up to their own book of rules, and they literally canceled Lucky Charms because of it, and it's all on tape. Happy St. Patrick's Day from Project Veritas.
Hi, are you?
I'm Greg.
Greg?
I'm James O'Keefe.
James. And you are?
Natalie Poole.
Kim Barry. Hi. I'm Carolyn Knuckle. Yeah.
Well, we're with the Irish Heritage Society. I'm a personal advisor to James, Natalie, and Kim. And basically, they have had some unpleasant, uncomfortable experiences at some of the dining halls.
Okay.
And basically, if you want to... Well, like Greg said, we're from the Irish Heritage Foundation. It's not recognized by the university, but basically wanted to bring a matter to your concern that we noticed that, you know, at the dining halls here, Buckers serve Lucky Charms, and we think that this promotes negative stereotypes of Irish Americans, and we don't think it's acceptable in an academic setting, especially one of higher learning. And we brought a box for you to look at here. And there's what appears to be an Irish American on the front cover, and he's portrayed as a little green cladded gnome, a huckster, and we think that this undermines the importance and severity of St. Patrick's Day, especially during the month of March. So basically what we're trying to do is appeal to you.
Can you tell me that again? You feel that he's portrayed as a...
I think he's portrayed as a little green cladded gnome, and this is really, as you can see, we're not all short. I mean, we have our differences of height, and we think this is stereotypical of all Irish Americans, and we're really proud of our ancestry, but because of our history and what has happened to us, we think this undermines and it's offensive, and it shouldn't belong here.
If I might interject quickly, the university's policy against verbal assault, defamation, and harassment starts off by saying that
Oh my gosh, isn't that funny? James literally canceled Lucky Charms. He goes of it. I don't know how he didn't start laughing when he was describing. Oh, and I've got a minute. I'm going to play one more Grace Kelly, and then I'm out.
Freedom, the right to think as one wants, the absence of subjection to foreign domination or despotic government, the power of self-determination, the state of not being imprisoned or enslaved, the state of being unrestricted and able to move easily. Are you free? Yeah, totally free. I just can't open my business, call to my mate's house, go beyond 5k, go abroad, I'm track and traced. I can't buy food or breathe easily without my GIMP mask. If I go back to work, I'm going to have to get a vaccine, which means I don't really have any bodily autonomy. I'd like to have a choice and question the narrative, but if I do, then I'm far right. But I'm free. I'm totally free. It's just a big jail, like a 5k jail on an island. But I'm free. Totally free. Freedom.
And that was from Grace Ann Kelly, one of her latest. How free are you? And then this is cute. It's just a GIF. Because they want to cancel Peppy. Or not Peppy. Well, yeah, it is Pepe Le Pew. That's funny. So I'm looking for the guys. They're not here yet, I don't think. How are you, chat? I'm looking at chat. And they're coming in right now. Hello, guys.
Hey, what's going on? Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
I caught part of your show today. The part where you guys were talking about, what were you talking about? You were talking about.
Go ahead.
It was good. You were talking about President Trump using different platforms, and maybe if he wouldn't just use Fox and use some of these other platforms, since we are the news now. I just thought that was such a good discussion.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was. I'm kind of miffed that it's Fox News that continues to get all of President Trump's attention and exposure after the complete betrayal and everything else that they performed and what they did to him. It was a good discussion for sure. We'll get into that more probably here today on the 5x5.
Cool. It looks like Season Pixels is having a bit of a mic problem.
You're on mute, brother. That's why. Oh, now I still can't hear you. Lovely.
And his green screen looks like he's lost his green screen too.
Or maybe he's just celebrating St. Patty's Day.
Oh, maybe.
With a bright green background. Can you hear us, Pixels? He can hear us. He can hear us. You just can't hear him.
Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, it's weird. He's gonna, I guess, try to reset, and he says he'll be right back. So,
hey, and I had the pleasure of going on air last night. I subbed for Mo on PSB, and Earth Garden Living joined me.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I got to meet her on air, which was really nice.
That's very cool. That's very cool. I know she was talking about wanting to maybe do some on-air stuff over on PSB. So that's exciting. That's exciting. How'd the show go?
It went good. Yeah, it was good. And it does help to meet people on air and, talk to them a little bit on air to get to know them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got to check out her website.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shameless plug. Earth Garden Living has a company called Earth Garden Botanicals, where she sells CBD oil and all kind of other really great products. Everything's fantastic there. They're a sponsor of my channel. So if you are in the market, WTPI at checkout for 10% off your order. But yeah, no, they Earth Garden, Jolene, she's fantastic, and I'm really happy to be able to work with her.
That's cool. It helps her out and it helps you out, and a Patriot company, and cool.
Yep. That's very
cool.
cool.
I'm going to check out her CBD oil, I think.
Yeah, it's great stuff. My favorite's the orange ginger bergamot mix is just really tasty.
And what benefits do you get from it? I used to use it for like sleeping and a little bit of an anti-anxiety.
Yeah, it's just like it calms everything. It calms my muscles. It calms my anxiety. It helps me sleep a little bit. Just in general, it's just like a good overall product. It's like it's very subtle all around, but you could definitely tell, especially if you take it consistently for a few weeks, you really start to notice a difference.
Cool. I'll have to check that out then.
Yeah. Edie 512 says, I prefer THC. I like THC too. I'm a fan of THC. I've been known to dabble with such things, but the CBD is definitely a good product.
Hers doesn't contain the THC, right?
No,
they can't because of selling over the. Okay,
nothing there.
I have read though that THC for some people causes anxiety.
It can, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway. Hopefully Pixels will get back soon. Do you want to just go ahead and go on with your show?
Yeah, that's no problem. I can hold it down. I can hold it down for a little bit here until
you're an old pro.
I've done this once or twice before.
All right. Well, you take care and have a good show. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much, Sunny Days. Have a great rest of your night.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. So it is just you and me live chat. Maybe not
anymore.
Oh shit! Here he is, the legend himself. Sees in Pixels. What's up, buddy?
Gracious! I feel like such a moron.
Just not plugged in.
No, it was a volume knob that I normally that I normally have off when I'm just doing my daily activities to avoid whatever. So we're back. It's exciting though, because this is the first time I've been live with my new setup, and I think I'm gonna try and show you.
I saw the pictures.
Oh, did you see it on Gad?
It's badass, yeah. But yeah, bring it up. Show people what you're working with.
It's I've got this like screen. It's amazing. Give me a sec.
It is really nice, and it makes me kind of ashamed of my setup because I'm literally on a Walmart table. Walmart might be a little bit too high quality to describe the desk I'm working on. I've got Walking Dead comic book, like the compendiums, holding up my monitors to the right height.
That's fantastic.
I like that looks like a legit professional like setup for someone who does this. If you saw what I'm working with, you'd be like, really Adel? How long have you been doing this? My god, that looks awesome, Pixels.
Thanks, dude. And this pole here, if the TV's not heavy enough, it's getting mounted up there. Otherwise I'm gonna have to buy like another monitor. But yeah, and my dad built this desk for me, and it's freaking awesome. It's like way better than something you could buy. So I'm excited about it.
The desk is where I need my big upgrade for sure. Like I said, I'm on literally like it's like a very, very, it's like a miniature kitchen table that I've repurposed. And Nature Ninja.
At least it's not one of those like plastic fold out Lifetime tables. That
it might as well be, honestly. it's not a whole lot higher quality than that. Nature Ninja, my girlfriend out in the live chat, she's probably rolling her eyes right now because she's been bugging me to upgrade my desk and workstation for months. and I've prioritized about a million other things to buy or purchase or whatever. Other than that, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. As my entire world wobbles around me, it's all good though. It's all good. Yeah, I do use giant thick comic books to hold up my monitors. So that definitely needs to be upgraded. Anyway, man, how was your week? How the last 7 days since we hung out last?
It's been good. I've just been working and playing Skyrim and peeking at the news every once in a while. But unfortunately, I woke up this morning with like that irritated like feeling in the back of your throat that you typically get right before you get sick.
Oh no!
So I'm thinking I'm probably gonna get sick here in the next couple days. But
do you have like
do you have
like the weird taste in your mouth? Like for me, right before I get sick, I get like this weird taste in my mouth that I can't get rid of.
Like that metallic taste in the back of your throat, and it's like just irritated. Yeah. It's great. So and like my tonsils are inflamed. It's coming.
Yeah, that's no good, man. I hope it doesn't get too serious. I hope you're able to.
Fine.
Yeah, I hope you're.
I'll come down with the Rona, and it'll be a big story, and then everyone will hold me up as some kind of hero. I beat the Rona.
There you go. You took your hydroxychloroquine. Yeah. Well, I don't know. What should we do, Pixel? Should we just sit here and bullshit about nothing for an hour? And
let's go ahead.
Just leave the people wanting more for next week. I don't know. I feel like I'm in at the beginning of a study hall, like with friends in high school, just like we could start doing our work, or we could just sit now. Go ahead, man. Kick it off. You take the lead. I'm in procrastination mode right now.
It's okay. We're gonna play the opener real quick just to get us into the mood and in the spirit of what our show's supposed to be, and then we'll get on into it. Here we go, everybody. The New Guard, starting right after this intro video.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice.
If fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
This is not simply another four-year election. This is a crossroads in the history of our civilization that will determine whether or not we, the people, reclaim control over our government.
As always, you are watching The New Guard here on the 5x5 Network, the show that is both awesome and regularly plagued by technical difficulties. Adel, take it away.
Well, welcome everybody. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're all having a nice halfway point to your week here as we get into another hour of The New Guard with my good buddy Season Pixels. Yeah, man, I don't know what to say. I was kind of, were you able to listen to the show I did earlier? with the guys at all?
Admittedly, I was moseying in bed.
No worries, man. No worries. So we're talking about the Trump interview last night with Maria Bartiromo. Did you watch it?
I did not. I think I caught parts of it, but it was kind of short, wasn't it?
It
wasn't very lengthy.
It wasn't very lengthy. And the discussion that I started, and we don't have to get super into this if live chat already heard it and they don't really care to go through it again. But I'm curious your thoughts, man. Are you as frustrated as I am that President Trump still continues to like exclusively give his interviews to Fox News? It feels like, and like the establishment media machine that turned its back, stole the republic, especially Fox News. I mean, them calling Arizona early was kind of the plug that started the whole steal to begin with. So it's like to have President Trump continue to inflate their ratings and inflate their shows and keep them relevant. I don't understand it. Well, not to say that, I deserve an interview with President Trump, but there's a lot of really good independent media that's been pushing the narrative and really supporting President Trump in a big way. That still seem, are getting the shaft. It's like we're still like being kept in the corner. Are you as irritated with this as I am? Like, why do you continue to inflate Fox News's tires and ignore those who really, carried the weight for you for 4 or 5 years?
I mean, are you talking about when you say that? Are you talking about like OAN and Newsmax?
Not
like
even
that,
them. Like I mean, OAN would be a good start, but like go on.
I mean, do you think he should go on like Red Pill?
Yeah, do an interview with Red Pill. Go on, Quite Frankly. Go hang out with Dilly for a half hour. I said I could care. I'd love to interview President Trump. In fact, I would really love to do it. And President Trump probably would not enjoy the interview with me because I have a lot of very hard questions I'd like to ask him. It would not be a star-studded like a starstruck like, oh my God, like no, I have a lot of questions for him that I don't, things that I don't understand that I want a better explanation for. I wouldn't waste my time with small talk with him for a second, but there's my point is there's a lot of really well put together independent media that he could lift up, that he could drive attention to, that he can kind of start breaking away from the mainstream and really decentralizing things in this country. And we haven't seen that. It's still just like Fox News. You would think that nothing ever happened.
I think so. I'm gonna lay something out here, Adel, that you're not gonna agree with, and I don't really agree with it either. But it's there, and we have to address it. We can't ignore it. Okay. I agree with you that President Trump should be going on these independent streams and helping bolster alt media like us, right? The problem with that is that right now the media and the mainstream, all those people, they're still really, really, really attacking Q. They have an outright obsession about it. And if he were to go on one of these platforms, for instance, let's say Red Pill 78, it would just, the media, I can already see the headlines, right? The left-wing headlines would be like, all caps, pathetic, : Trump joins conspiracy theorists on podcast in a strange turn from his normal blah, blah. I could just see it now. So that, I think that would be a problem, and I think that he is just, there's other things that he wants to be focused on right now, and I feel like those kinds of attacks being amplified against him and therefore against us, I don't think he sees that as beneficial at the moment. So that is the reason why I think that's the reason why he's not going on these alt platforms, because right now they're so obsessed with conspiracy theory this and conspiracy theory that and QAnon, dangerous, radicalized, domestic terrorists. I think that if he joined one of these podcasts, and trust me, I would love to see him do it. And honestly, I wouldn't give a damn, what the media says about it. But I think he's trying to avoid that right now, and I don't think I can blame him for that.
So you don't. That's fair. I mean, that's fair. I agree that that's probably part of why he's not doing it. I understand why. I'm just frustrated by it because I don't think that's a good reason not to.
Yeah.
Like,
no, it's not a good reason at all, but it is a reason.
Yeah, the mainstream media, if they had their little hissy fit over it, that would only work to his and our advantage, in my opinion, because they would just be driving more attention towards a red pill or whoever.
But it would be starkly negative attention.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, you would get a lot of negative attention, sure, but you would also get probably tens of thousands of people that only watched Fox News, exposing themselves to a whole new world that a lot of them probably don't even know exists. Right? And this was the point I made on my show, Pixels, is Q, who I believe was a direct extension of President Trump. I mean, are you on that boat still, that you think Q is 100%?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I think, and long story short, there's nothing that can convince me that Q wasn't coming from the Trump administration.
All right. So I just wanted to establish that same foundation with what I'm about to say going forward. Right. So Q said, "You are the news now." And then it's time. What are you waiting for to legitimize us as the news? Like, you have a pretty small window here to really capitalize on the movement you've created. We truly become the news now by being legitimized by President Trump, his kids, General Flynn, Rudy Giuliani, getting out there and joining us on these channels and having conversations with us and adding that level of legitimacy to what we do. You really want us to be the news now? Stop giving your time and attention to the fakers. Stop giving your time and attention to the enemy. Sure, you could show up there to use their megaphone, but leverage it in a way that pulls people off of that machine, or at least give equal time to things outside of there so you can draw people away. I feel like we get a lot of lip service, like in what our role is. Like, oh, you guys are the second most dangerous thing. You guys are the most, and I agree, we are. I don't think it's just lip service. Maybe that's not the right way to put it, but it's like, don't tell us we're the news and then treat us like we don't exist when you're looking to give a news interview. It's incredibly infuriating, especially now that you're out of the White House. You're not president of the United States anymore, so it's not like there's that whole thing going on. You've been stabbed in the back by these people over and over again. Like, at some point, like, you got to go with the people who brought you to the dance. And that's not Fox News. That's not OAN. That's not any of these other stations. It was
I agree
the
with
online
you.
community.
I agree with you, but to be fair, there's more than one way to interpret "you are the news now," and I think possibly it's because it's either we're the news now, as in we're the ones dishing out the news, or we're the news now, as in we're the ones who are the topic of the news that's being put out there. And I think the latter is what I've been seeing more often lately, is that, because a lot of us have in this movement have kind of moved away from kind of reporting the news and more into conversation about current events, which is fine. I have no problem with that. In fact, I enjoy it more. That's why you and I have been doing that more.
Mm-hmm.
But what I have been seeing lately in the mainstream media and in all these left-wing article piece of crap dumpster websites, we're the topic. QAnon is the big boogeyman right now. We're the topic of the news. So that kind of, we are the news now. People are talking about us. People are smearing us. People are trying to tie every ridiculous theory out there to us, et cetera, et cetera. So I kind of interpret "we are the news now" as in we're the topic. We're what's being talked about.
I could see it spun that way, I guess. I don't think that's what Q meant. I think he meant that, we drive the news, we control the narrative. It's
there certainly is a. I wouldn't say that we control the narrative, but I can see what, like, there is a theme of that. We are driving some parts of the narrative, but I don't think we're anywhere near actually driving the narrative right now. I think we're still stuck in this mindset.
We're what's keeping the narrative at least somewhat honest. Like
Sure.
there's no pushback from Fox News
Right,
on
but
what the
I'm
left
saying
is
though
doing.
is we're not necessarily driving the narrative. We're pushing back against the one that's being driven. And I'd like to see this movement move away from just pushing back on the narrative. Instead of reacting to what they're doing, we should be driving the narrative and they should be reacting to us. It should be the other way, because then we're in the powerful position and they're in the position where they're just responding to everything we do and
We have been,
complaining.
though. We have been. I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, you can if you really go back and look, you can even see how the nighttime hosts on Fox News became a lot more patriot driven, after Q started dropping. They were a lot more. I honestly think that we did drive the news and force reaction. I don't think you get the same push from the Hannitys and the Carlsons and the Ingrams and the Bartiromos and the Dobbs without Q, without the internet community making noise underneath them, because that's what motivates them. If we're not there doing what we do, those guys are just collecting their giant paychecks, paying lip service to being a resistance to the left-wing resistance. Yeah, Hannity might have said there's probably no Russia collusion and it's a witch hunt, but would he have been pushing for justice and really pushing back the way he was without the Q movement and the internet people, will just say the independent media, doing what they were doing underneath him, right? It's almost like we forced Fox News and people like that to take more of an interest or to push back harder because they had to save face because of what we were uncovering. I think that we really did drive the narrative in a lot, and we did also spend a lot of energy countering it. But I think you saw especially in the nighttime on Fox News, I think you saw them step up their game because of what we did. I think they had to go beyond what their initial scope or comfort zone probably would have been from the perspective of their producers and their sponsors and whatnot. I think we forced them outside of their comfort zone by how deep we dig and how effective we meme and how much we lift each other up, that they had to go that far.
So maybe you just answered your own question, your own question from before as to why President Trump is still on those platforms. Maybe he's just, he sees that they have been made a little bit better, I guess, or made a little bit more willing to fight by all of us under them, kind of, driving the sentiment at the ground level. Maybe he's just riding that out. Maybe he sees that it's there and he wants to take advantage of it.
Yeah. So, and I have no problem with President Trump. I mean, look, Fox News, love him or hate him, I think you all know how I feel about him. They have a huge megaphone, right? I mean, I can't deny their reach. Hannity, Carlson, Bartiromo, Dobbs, Ingram, they all have huge shows, bigger than pretty much anybody that you're going to get online. So I don't have a problem with him utilizing the megaphone, but why exclusively? Why in the 3 months or the 2 months since inauguration, you've given however many interviews, almost all of them have been on Fox News. I think one was on Newsmax, but almost all of them have been drawing eyeballs to the very network that caused the steal, that basically helped remove you from office. So it's like, okay, continue to use them for their value that they provide, but they have a lot of competition all over the place that you could be lifting up that's going to give you a way better interview, a way more fair shake, and that's a lot more aligned with what it is you're trying to get done. I think that we are. I mean, maybe I'm being fooled altogether, but it just, why exclusively the traditional media when there's a whole nother world out there? And we know Dan Scavino understand it. We know that he has people in his camp that understand the value in what we provide. So why aren't we being utilized more?
Maybe it's because President Trump knows, he knows that we exist, right? JR has been told by somebody who worked at the White House that all of us, Red Pill, you, Methods, the whole, me, everybody, we're more known than we think, right? So President Trump most likely knows about us and knows about this movement, obviously, because he helped create it. And I think he understands that regardless of where the interview is, we're going to play it on our shows. We're going to discuss it. We're going to push it out anyways. And in the thing about President Trump is when he's in an interview, it doesn't matter who's interviewing him. He's going to say whatever the hell he wants. And he can go on these long tangents just to get his thoughts out there. And a lot of the time, it doesn't even matter what questions these people ask him. He's just kind of it's like this big information vomit, and he just puts it all out there. Not to say anything bad about it, but it's just, he pushes it all out there. And so I think for President Trump, it doesn't really matter who's interviewing him, because he's just going to say what he's going to say. And he knows that we're going to play it regardless of where it was, because we want to hear him speak and what he has to say. So maybe he just doesn't see a point in spending the time to go to all these different places when he can just go on one, he gets his message out there, and all the other places play it.
If you're looking at it from just, I have something to say and I want as many people to hear me as possible, then yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. If you look
at it, I think that's what he wants. I think he wants as much, his message to get there as much as possible.
And look, I know he's a busy guy, but I don't see any reason why he couldn't pick one independent media per month, one channel. If we're all known.
He did go on Rush Limbaugh.
That's not independent media though. I mean,
well, yeah, he is. Of course he is. Oh, he was.
He was. He's not anymore. I mean, I don't know I can't remember who Rush works for, but it's not like the Rush Limbaugh network. I mean, he's got a boss like anybody else. It's a big money operation. And look, I'm all about it. Rush Limbaugh, as far as like the mainstream outlets go, the guy's probably as good as you're going to get from like a traditional outlet at this point. So that's going on Rush Limbaugh is hardly like going on a podcast or something. You know what I mean? Like I would even take it if he went on like a Louder with Crowder at this point. You know what I mean? I don't even like Louder with Crowder that much, but just like something outside of the TV box, just because you could go on Maria Bartiromo, do what he did, and that's fine. But then just every once in a while now be like, hey, if he think of what that would do for a channel like Red Pill or Frank or 5x5 if President Trump put out a statement saying, hey, I'm going to be here at this link at this time. Yeah, we would get a ton of hate from the left. Media Matters,
sure,
they would all be fine, and that could be our choice if we want to go through the gauntlet of hate to do that. But you're also going to have tens of thousands, if not more, Fox News Republicans that had no idea this whole world of independent media ever existed, potentially tuning in to something new. Maybe 65, maybe 80, 90% of them never come back. But even if 10% of them become fans of that show, that's a huge jump for any of these channels. You do that a few different places over the course of a few months, and you're legitimizing good, hardworking patriots. You're decentralizing the flow of information. You're aligning yourself with your true base. I see there are negatives to it for sure, as far as what the media is going to say. But they're also just going to drive more and more attention to these. Like it'll all snowball in our favor. Maybe I'm missing something here.
Do you think maybe he thinks we're not ready?
He must, or doesn't see the value in it, or he's getting terrible advice from somebody. And
I always have trouble with the whole Trump's getting terrible advice, because that to me, that's like saying Trump's an idiot and he can't make his own decisions. And no one's ever going to get me to believe that.
He's a CEO. CEOs hire people around them to help inform them. I would doubt
but
that
they
President
also make
Trump,
the decisions.
They do, but they do that based on the information they're getting, right? So if President Trump is told by someone that he trusts that, these 5 people put these 5 people in place, not knowing that they're compromised because they're gonna have your best interest in mind, And, you know, all 5 of them are saying, hey, no, like really to accomplish what you need to accomplish. Trust me, I've been in this world longer than you. This is what you need to do. President Trump, the smart thing to do, even if it doesn't, would be to listen to your experts, as someone loyal to you. You know what I mean? Like, it's not saying that he's dumb to take the advice of people that he might have been told to trust, or that he thought he could trust, or he thought were experts, or thought were going to lead him to a certain place. That's why you have these people to begin with, is because if you could just make all the decisions yourself and you didn't need any advice, or you didn't need any help with anything, then why even bother? You know, it's, you bring people on and you get as much information as possible, and then you make the best decision you can based on that advice and information. But that advice and information is only as good as the people providing it to you, and your decision is only going to be as good as that advice and information given to you. So I think President Trump makes a lot of great decisions and does a lot of smart things, and I think he's a very smart man, and I think he has done probably the best he can with what he's had to work with. But I think he's also allowed, I think he's also offered more concessions than necessary. I think he's, you know, put this person in place against his better judgment, or, you know, done this against his better judgment. I think there's been one too many of those times where he's kind of given in to bad advice, where you could tell he doesn't really necessarily think it's the best thing to do, but goes with it anyway and ends up regretting it later. He said so himself many a times. He said there was someone else that he wanted that wasn't Kemp, and he took Kemp based on advice, you know, like in Georgia. It was between him and one other nominee or candidate, and he put his horse behind Kemp based on advice he got, and he said right there, if he'd go back, he wouldn't do it again. You know,
well,
so
I mean, maybe this is one of President Trump's weaknesses, is his tendency to trust people that he shouldn't.
Yes,
there's a few comments out there that I would like to address. Somebody said, "Oh, Jeff Patriot out there said he was surrounded by traitors." The only thing is, though, I think President Trump should be smart enough to understand that and be weary of the advice that these people are giving him. Like I said, I mean, if we can see it and we're not even in his circle, then surely he must be able to see that as well. Another thing that somebody said, maybe, who was it? Susie Z said, I believe he is just very busy doing things in the background that we don't know about. Yeah, of course. That's probably the biggest reason why he doesn't go on platforms like this, because it would take too much time. He's got all their stuff going on. He's working on figuring out who he's going to endorse, and he's looking forward, really in a big way, he's looking forward to the midterms. So I think that's where his main focus is right now. Christine C. over in Foxhole chat said, imagine if he mentioned Foxhole. Well, I can tell you what would happen if you mentioned Foxhole. Rest in peace, pill.net servers.
Yeah, right.
it would be like a bloodbath. It'd come to a grinding halt, but it would be a good thing. I think a lot of support would come in, and that would be something amazing. But anyways, I think we've beat this horse pretty good. Do you have any news articles that you saw today that you wanted to bring up, Adel?
Yeah, we can get off of this. So I do, actually. So we got some stuff going on in Georgia with the election still. So judge rules that group voter Georgia can unseal Fulton County, Georgia ballots and inspect them for invalid votes in the 2020 election. So you have this going on here. A judge in Georgia has granted the group of concerned citizens permission to inspect the votes in Fulton County, Georgia. According to the Georgia Star News, a judge in Georgia has allowed the group to audit the state's ballots in Fulton County, Atlanta. Henry County Judge Brian Amaro on Monday conditionally granted members of Georgia-based coalition the right to unseal ballots from last November's presidential election in Fulton County. Members of the group, Voter GA, may now inspect the ballots for evidence of fraud. Amaro's decision is almost unprecedented in Georgia history, said Voter GA spokesman Garland Favorito. Former U.S. President Donald Trump lost Georgia's electoral votes to current U.S. President Joe Biden. The Georgia Star News asked Favorito if he and his hundreds of volunteers might find enough evidence of voter fraud in the county to tip Georgia's election in favor of former President Donald Trump. That's possible, Favorito said. Favorito said county officials have long registered voter Georgia's Georgia's attempts to inspect their ballots. So that is very good news. Also, judge rules Michigan Secretary of State Benson directed city clerks to ignore signature matching law on absentee ballots in November 2020 election. So after countless irregularities in the 2020 election and questions that arose due to the handling of ballots, counting of ballots, and absentee ballots, a Michigan judge has ruled that Michigan Secretary of State did in fact direct city clerks to ignore signature matching law on absentee ballots in the 2020 election. However, the ruling appears to be too little too late to have any effect on the fantastically mismanaged 2020 election that millions of reasonable Americans do not trust. So you got these stories coming out, man. You got these stories coming out in Georgia and Michigan, these battleground states that we know we're all fudged up. And I love seeing this come out. Maybe it is too little too late, but I think it's important that the truth be told so we can use that to change the rules back to how they were prior to COVID.
So this just pisses me off, dude. Honestly, it just does, because here's my response to both of those articles. Great, but what the hell's going to be done about it? You know what I mean? I think it's a kick in the face. Months after this could have been fixed, to slow walk this shit and come out with the evidence and show us what we've been saying the entire damn time, and then go, well, yeah, we just proved to you guys and admitted that the election was completely stolen and rigged, but we're not going to do shit about it. This just makes me angry. This could have, imagine what would have happened if this came out 3 or 4 months ago, or right after the election. It could have overturned the result rightfully. Mm-hmm. But now we're just going to get some flimsy ass articles and we're going to just complain online, and then they're not going to do jack shit about it.
Well, again, if we use it to pressure local legislatures to secure the elections, then it'll be fine.
I watched Rudy Giuliani and an entire team of lawyers pressure the state legislators to do the right thing, and they didn't give a shit. So you think the people are just going to, complain enough to where they actually do something?